Okay, it's February 6th, 7 o'clock. It's the Sutton Conservation Commission. The first item is a public hearing on an ANRAD that's been continued from the 1st of January, from January 23rd.
Make a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing for 141, 128, and 142 Armsby Road.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's see. The fees have been paid. Is there a DEP number for this?
Yeah.
It's 0887.
$0,887. Do you have any applications with any other boards at this time?
No.
No?
They've had informals with the planning board. We'll be filing a notice of intent and a site plan shortly here.
Okay, so this is just the ANRAD.
Yeah, it's just to confirm the resource area boundaries. Can everyone see this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Brian Waterman, the wetland specialist with WDEA. These properties are located, this is 146 and Armsby Road. You can see part of the golf course off to the south or west here. Parcels, these are 141, 128, and 142 Armsby Road. The off-ramp for 146 and then 146 east, south and north. The total property is 33 and 20, it's like 57 acres total. So we delineated the wetlands on this site in May, and then this, I think, was October or so. All wetland flags were survey located. Brandon has been out and looked at the resource areas. We had one flag change on the north and added a little finger here on the south. But the site has been, there's two cart roads that access this south part here. There's been historic gravel removal on this piece. This is gas line easement that runs through the property. There's a beaver pond here, which receives intermittent flows from the, there's a culvert under 146 and then a channel. There's an outlet pipe here that discharges to a stream here. These all flow through the area here down to another man-made pond. This is connected via a 36-inch culvert, which discharges into this lower pond. This then goes into a culvert under Armsby into this open area, and then through, and I believe the commission is working with maybe Glenn Kravosky and the DPW on removing the culvert under that kind of side piece that goes out towards the cemetery. There's a gravel road that enters this side off the cemetery. This is being developed right now. There's old gravel removal in here, and that's the hotel to the north, the bookstore here to the south. I said, that's kind of an aerial on that. Since it's a big site, I did a kind of an overall here. So the blue represents the stream areas, the three ponds. There's an isolated pond here behind where the house with the bookstore is. And then the main stream thread runs off to the north. The streams that enter on this side, according to stream stats, they're mapped as intermittent streams on USGS, and stream stats supports that they're intermittent from this side of the road over. Running a data point from stream stats farther downstream indicates that it picks up enough supporting drainage area that this side would be considered perennial. And as such, we flagged the mean annual high water for the stream on that portion as well. So we had actually flagged the wetlands on this side in 2006, and we revisited those wetlands. There was a slight change in this area and then a finger here that's associated with an old channel. Everything else pretty much stayed the same, and then this was a new delineation as part of the overall site. So like I said, Brandon went out, he had one flag adjustment, flag 58, on this north side. And then there was an old dug channel here that, we had broken around the gas line easement. But we went out recently and looked at it, and we agree that there's some hydrology and vegetation there, so that finger was added. And then there was another area here where there's a pipe under the cart road, but the soils and the slopes here, the pipe is more to keep this from ponding. It's been there as long as I can remember, and we looked at this back in 2006, and it was not wetland then, and the soils don't support that it's a wetland now, so. Those were the three main areas that Brandon had concerns on. We made those adjustments, and these plans represent the revised boundary, large scale. So the fifth flag 58 is down in this area. This is that gravel road. The cemetery is here, and the development upslope is there. This is a basin they have in their access drive, gravel drive. And this is the culvert that I guess is being replaced now, so. Again, all the medium and high water flags are here and located, and Brandon reviewed those as well, so. There's a narrow wetland fringe around this isolated pond. There's no culvert connection between these. This actually flows down this way. So we've got the 200-foot riverfront shown, and then the 100-foot buffer zones around the wetlands, so. This is strictly just to confirm all the resource areas, and I think, Brandon, you're all set with the field work and. This is farther down where it goes off-site. There's a new building in here, and then this is the hotel back here. Again, just a larger blow up. This is the little finger here that was added. Like I said, there's a beaver dam, the existing cart path road here, the beaver dam, the water flows over that. So this actually turned into a resource area, even though the gravel drive is still there, it's been overrun.
Is that still an active beaver area?
No, it does not appear to be, no. There's been a breach in that dam, and nothing's repaired it, so I think they probably ate most of their food source and moved on, so. I know there was some blockage in this culvert, which I think the town has cleaned out. Is that the one?
The one that Glenn Kravosky's working on?
Yeah, I think it might have been, because that was blocked when I was here in May, and it's open now.
I don't think
Yeah.
it was blocked by beavers, though. It was just blocked with,
No, I think it looked like it was beaver activity to
Yeah.
me, but.
It's on the north side of the road between Armsby and Old Armsbury.
Oh, on that, he's working on that one.
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
That culvert.
They take
replacement.
it, they're just taking it out and opening it up.
Oh,
And that Old Armsby is just gonna be
yeah,
cut off.
abandoned.
Yeah.
Brandon, you have any comments?
My comments are that Mr. Waterman was great to work with, and we've come to an agreement on what all the wetland resource areas are and their locations, so, I'm in agreement. He presented it well tonight, and I recommend the issuance of a order of resource area delineation.
You fine?
Fine. Yeah, looks good to me.
I believe we have people from the audience. I don't know if you want to move that around. If anybody here from the audience for this?
Yeah, is this just very, very preliminary as far as marking the wetlands? If any part?
Could you stand up and say your name and
Yeah,
your
Aaron
address?
Frederick. I'm just concerned, we're at 122 Armsby Road, so
Yeah.
basically abutting the property there.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you had any further sketches or anything to provide.
No, this is
Or
really
started
just,
To mark the wetlands. And-
right, so we know what we're dealing with when they
Okay.
do planning and design on it.
Okay,
Like I said, there'll be we're working on a site plan right now, which is coming along, will be filing a notice of intent and site plan, and anyone within 300 feet will be notified, so you'll get notification then. Then there'll be a plan that you can take a look at for design and stuff. But right now, this is just to confirm what the resource areas are, so we know what we're dealing with going forward.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
I don't know.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to issue an ORAD for 141, 128, and 142 Armsby Road.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
Have a good night.
Good night. Thanks, Brenda.
Let's see. Today is 2/6/19. Okay.
Need to look at the new plans they brought in, or it's the same that he just showed us?
For what?
We need to sign these plans. This one you just did?
They have no plans for the ANRAD, well,
What
I
are
mean,
you showing?
we have that plan, yeah, no plans for building, yeah.
No, not the building, that's just for the, what he did, yeah.
You read.
Trade you.
The 715, the Worcester Providence Turnpike, they've withdrawn that, and they're going to file a notice of intent, I believe, for 188 Worcester Providence Turnpike. 715,
And I recommend that all the funds be returned
returned.
and be applied to the notice of intent.
Ah, very good. 176 Manchog Road, Sutton, Mass. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 6th, 2019, at 7:15 PM at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. Purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Thomas and Brenda Sterinsky, Walpole, Mass. The project consists of a septic tank, tight tank, repair, and expansion to the existing driveway on map 42, parcel 17, on 176 Manchog Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Good evening. We have your resume on file. Have we received abutters notifications?
Yes, we have a certificate of mailing right here.
We'll give it to Wanda.
And then, also too, I have 2 additional copies of the plan, for you
Okay.
to use tonight.
Do you have a DEP number?
I, as of 6:35, have not been issued one, and
So therefore, we can't close tonight, because you have no
That's
DEP
understandable.
number. Are you in front of the Board of Health, or?
Yes, we are. Board of Health submission went in a little bit earlier last week, and that's currently under review, and the DEP was submitted when the plans were submitted to Town of Sutton.
So that's pending planning board
No, there shouldn't be a planning board for that.
and appeal board? No?
No.
All right, I think that takes care of housekeeping.
Okay, perfect. For the record, my name is John Federico with Gurrier and Halnon. I'm representing Brenda and Thomas Stasinski tonight, who are here in the audience. For our project at 176 Manchog Road, just to give you a very brief background here, and sorry, let me turn this a little bit for you guys. So we have an existing two-bedroom dwelling on the site with some patio area, walkways, a garage, and then also a deck. There is an existing well located in the front of the property and a neighboring well located on our property line at the back of the property, as well as an on-site septic system with a tank located approximately right here and the toilet work system located underneath the existing garage. As of May of 2018, a system inspection was done that determined that the existing system is currently failing with flows backing up into both the D-box and the septic tank. So as of right now, everything has been designed towards Title V. We would try to incorporate in a full soil absorption system for this project, but unfortunately, due to site constraints, we were unable to do so. Therefore, we have also filed a variance with DEP to request the installation of a 2,000-gallon tight tank. As far as the tight tank goes, once again, that is all designed to Title V. In terms of the flows for the site, the tight tank only needed to be about 1,100 gallons or so. We are going with a minimum size of 2,000 gallons per what Title V is requesting in that case.
So you have a variance pending with DEP for a 2,000-gallon tank?
And then a part of that variance, we're also requesting a separation from the neighboring well as well as separation from the foundation. All of these would be an improvement on existing conditions, and we don't necessarily foresee DEP having any sort of problems with that. But if they do have anything, we'll obviously modify plans and resubmit back to conservation as well as needed.
Could you repeat that for me again? I'm trying to write this
Sorry
down.
about that. In addition to the variance for the tank, we're also requesting a variance for 10 feet of separation from foundation to tank. We will be showing it at 5 feet currently. And then also we are requesting a variance from any adjacent wells in relation to the tank.
Okay.
So outside from the utilities aspect for this project, our clients are looking to use this as essentially a continuation for a summer home. So one thing that they've noticed anytime that they've been out on the site is that it's very tight between area between existing pavement at Montauk Road and where their current retaining wall is. So they've asked that we try to get an approval for an expanded parking area for them. It fits approximately 3 cars, and that will allow them to have any sort of guests that might be staying for a weekend be able to park there safely, as well as allow them some turnaround for any of their vehicles that they might have there. In terms of the overall square footage and what's going to be affected by the 100-foot wetland buffer, currently we only have about 665 total square feet of disturbance. That is also including any sort of minor grading activities that will be occurring outside of the proposed retaining wall to hold back the fill for the parking area, as well as anything that might be on top of that proposed tight tank. In terms of the erosion control barrier, since most of our work will only be on the western portion of our property, we're proposing 100% biodegradable straw wattle as well as silt fence to contain a silt runoff for it. As far as the proposed driveway itself, everything will be pitched towards Manchog Road. In terms of the stormwater requirements there, the site is negligible enough that we believe that there's not going to be any sort of adverse impacts to any of the neighbors as well as Manchog itself. So with that being said, that's kind of the general project here. Does the commission have any questions or anything for me?
Brandon?
Bring on the quick tour here. So, I'm on the street looking in, the garage is to the right, is the house. And the area where the parking area is gonna be, which I actually agree with, because I was trying to park, that's, but it's a bad spot. So it'll be in this, more or less in this grass area right here. What else do I have that might be of use? Now I'm standing in the area where the parking area would be, looking at the garage, so it's right here, it's already lawn, and I presume you're gonna, bring in some fill and bring it flush?
Yes,
Higher.
as of right now, we're gonna be about, less than 6 inches or so from, where the existing edge pavement is. So there shouldn't be any rapid, runoff that will be occurring from where our proposed driveway is.
Right, but if it's coming back towards the road, I imagine this is gonna be brought up.
Yes, it will.
Okay.
So as of right now, at our highest point, we're looking at about a retaining wall that could be approximately 6 to 7 feet.
Good, it'll be on this side right here.
Yes.
And the tight tank's gonna go in the space between the retaining wall and the house right here.
And then currently that space has a retaining wall and then some concrete pad that is there. That will be removed and replaced with some landscape area.
There we go, here's another picture of it. So the tight tank's gonna go somewhere in here.
Yes, that is correct. And there's no proposed fill or anything in that area. As far as the tight tank goes, we'd be using the same invert that's at the building, and then everything would be brought below that existing area at this point. So essentially, the only thing you would see would be some sort of potentially like a ready rock or Versalock retaining wall that might be there. Potentially some small plantings or something just to kind of beautify the area a little bit, and then the rest of it will all be grass or any small shrubbery or something like that.
Okay, so, two comments. One is, you say that the runoff's gonna be negligible. I'll let the commission decide whether or not they feel the same. And usually when there's a wall proposed, usually some kind of, cross-sectional detail. Also, I wanted to point out too, you mentioned 100-foot buffer zone. In Sutton, with the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, there's a 200-foot buffer zone / adjacent upland resource area under the bylaw, so.
Our project is currently 100% within that 200-foot, and then, like I mentioned, the 100-foot falls right about here, so.
And so it just barely makes it under the Wetlands Protection Act, but it's all under the bylaw.
Okay.
So that's just to make the jurisdiction clear. So, the question is, what do you think about the runoff issues? We know that this goes, at this spot, it would go downhill towards the Bronsons and probably go into that little sluice way that they created in the application that just came in for a certificate of compliance. What kind of treatment it would have on the road is probably negligible, nil, before it goes into the pond, so I'm just gonna let you decide whether or not you feel it's necessary. And I'll point out to the applicant that because it's a single-family house, under the state law, you're not required to think about stormwater infiltration, but at the bylaw, you do, and the commission has a policy to usually infiltrate any new impervious surfaces, like rooftop or driveways, so just putting it out there. And then there's the issue of the wall. Otherwise, I mean, it's all in a previously disturbed area, and it's on the street side of the pond. I think the environmental impact here is negligible.
No trees coming down.
No trees are coming down, except, well, I'm gonna walk that back. When I was on site, I did see that some trees have already been taken down.
Yes, we have currently a 12-inch pine stump and an 8-inch pine stump I believe Brenda and Thomas were in front of the board a few months ago.
You already got an RDA for
Yes.
that? Okay.
And we're gonna replace them in the spring, we're gonna plant new plantings in the spring.
So, I retract my statement. So the only impact, I think the concern with there's no wildlife habitat impact here. The impact would be related to water quality aspects of the act and the bylaw regarding any runoff. I have no problems with the tight tank.
Bob? Kenny?
The only thing I'd like to add is it might be nice if the erosion control barrier went from the house to the property line and up the property line, because right now, it's a matter of feet off of a wall, it's gonna be 8 feet deep, so you're gonna obviously destroy it in the process of putting the wall in, so.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. Originally, we were just trying to avoid any sort of trees that might be there, so we can definitely extend it to the property line without any sort of issue.
Mike?
The only question I have is because it's all asphalt. I'm cool with the driveway, it's definitely much needed. But there's a lot of water that goes down that road. I go up it every day. I just don't know enough about what's going on downstream from this. You said pitch to the road, right?
Yes.
Probably is the best thing. I'm not saying pitching it to the lake. Would they think about something different than asphalt, where there's so little land and so little green and absorption is a big thing? I think that's what Brandon was just getting to, is that to pave an area that big with so little green, and everything's inconsistent with this lot, meaning the neighbors are similar as far as how much is covered. So I just ask if you could consider something other than asphalt would be my only comment.
Okay, do you have any recommendations in that case, like some sort of like a pervious pavement or like a
Well, I wouldn't wanna,
cobblestone?
they did mention it's more of a summer home. I'm sure you wanna keep it plowed and be able to get in the winter. I don't wanna create any more cost. I just think they should think about that. That's all I asked. I don't really have a preferred method of it.
And
I would just be mindful for it.
Okay.
what I'm bringing up on the television right now is this little sluiceway that the Bronsons created, because what happens is the water comes down the road, and they actually, along the road, see if I can find a picture of that too. Okay, so it's gonna come down the road here to that bend where it gets, the road hugs the lake really close. And what the Bronsons ended up doing is they raised the side of the road, on the land on the side of the road, because the water was just going straight in to their lawn, right here. So this is higher, and see this thing right here? That's a little, I call it the sluiceway, but it's this thing right here. So then all the water comes down, and it's doing a little bit of infiltration, but in the winter times of the year and during a big storm, it's gonna go straight into the pond with no treatment whatsoever. So I think that's what,
Could you just back up in the pictures? I thought I saw like a crisscross, and I think, didn't they just come in for their certificate of compliance sign off?
they did.
I'm not saying to do this,
Yeah,
but
Mrs. Bronson
is that
made sure to
checkered?
point that out.
Wasn't that something that's impervious that you can snow blow and park on, and
Yes.
The walkway.
No, this is part of the driveway.
it's part of the driveway?
Yeah, she pointed out to me that the plan showed pavement going right up to the foundation, but instead, they did a portion of it like this. So there's gravel in the spaces, so that when the rain comes down, it goes into those spaces and doesn't run off. And the concrete mesh here is supposed to be strong enough to park a car on, and if it's installed properly, you can even plow it or use a snow blower to it.
Just a thought.
Andy?
I think in any instance, when you're replacing a bad septic system within a public water body, there's mitigation enough for that, so I'm okay with the plan as it is.
it's a great plan, and I agree with what Mike's saying about the driveway. However, that area now, because I drive by quite a bit, it's like hard gravel, probably working like cement and pavement now, so the water's probably washing off that. I don't think anything's getting sucked into that dirt, so I will be fine with pavement, because I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference in how it is right now.
I was under the impression you couldn't discharge water into the public road.
Where else is it gonna go?
Because, you have to have a catch basin or something, like, I'm at the bottom of the hill and there are 7 catch basins coming down and there's stuff from people's water coming down. And I was always under the impression that it was a DPW regulation, you couldn't discharge the water into the road. But I may be wrong.
I don't know about that, but I do know that you're not allowed to discharge water to your neighbor and cause a problem for them. As far as the road is concerned, I don't know the answer to that question.
I think we need to check on that, because I don't think you can, well, again, that was just always the impression that I had, was told that sometime farther back, but you can't discharge,
I've seen
have the
it,
hill and water coming down off your driveway into the road to freeze and so forth.
I've seen it plenty of times where you're allowed to discharge into an existing swale in the road. But like directly into the road, I don't know, because we have time, because we don't have a DEP number, right?
Yes.
So we've got a couple weeks to chew on it.
I mean, I believe you can. You just have to prove that you've done everything within your power to capture the water and keep it on your property. I think in the event of a storm that I don't think you purposely create water problems, but I think discharge water into the road, as long as the street drainage can handle it,
Well, that's
is
the
a lot.
problem.
I know when they
If there's-
design subdivisions, they actually pitch it to the street to go to the storm drain to,
Yeah, if there's a storm drain.
well, there's drainage along the sides of the road to capture water to, we can, like you said, you have time, but I think it's allowable up to a certain,
Yes, Matt. Is there any mitigation required?
As well, they're not taking down any trees or anything, so.
Well, there's the water quality
Water
aspect. It's been
quality
done
aspect,
before,
yeah.
to get done down the road, where, 192, one of the houses from the YMCA, part of the mitigation was to create that stilling basin, next to the stream, because it was 100% healthy forest. And the mitigation was to do a stormwater mitigation project.
Through the chair, isn't mitigation the fact that they're going from a bad septic to a new system that passes Title V?
Well, that's one aspect. The other aspect is that they're turning an existing grassed area into parking lots. So it's 2 parts. It's the Title V improvement, but then there's also the creation of the new parking area.
Overall, we are creating about 400 square feet of additional impervious area.
And that's
so,
part
like,
of
just
the
so I
rock
understand the
wall.
roads here,
Yep,
it's like this now, pitched to the lake. They wanna build a 7-foot high wall.
yep.
They wanna fill it in with material and pitch it to the street. So it's not anything to do with the existing, what's there.
Find it.
And
I
I
understand
understand
that,
that, but
okay.
you're gonna have a septic system that's better,
They're gonna have a tight tank.
but it's gonna be better than what's there today.
100% agreed.
There's no way anyone can even turn around there, cause you're on a tough corner. So, I mean, I don't think there's any other thing to do with, but put the driveway in.
Well, all I recommended is that they were mindful for the water that goes out to the street. There's ways to do hard surfaces that allow absorption instead of creating more of a flow to the street, which is, that's what, if we pave this and pitch it to the road, that's a substantial increase in flow to the street. And I'm not opposed to it. And I think the parking space is much needed. I just think we should be mindful to a street that already has a lot of water that goes down it. And every time you add more, it could create, so erosion, some of that riprap that we see and all that swale could be gone in the next big storm. And I'm not saying the driveway would be the cause of it, because when we're all, I just think that if it's not too expensive, they should be mindful for how much they create of hard surface. There's other ways.
So I guess the bottom line is, in the next 2 weeks, explore other options
We can
instead
definitely
of,
do that for you.
Do Does the commission have any opinion on cross-sectional detail on the wall?
You'd have to have a structural, anything over 4 feet is outside our realm of, I would believe the building inspector has to be involved in anything over 4 feet.
From my understanding, yes.
So I'd leave that
I
up
mean,
to,
I could show you a generic cross-section of, say, like a Versalock wall, if that's the route we decide to go, but until we actually have somebody go out and design that, I won't be able to provide you with any specific details for it, other than top and bottom elevations.
Basically, what we're looking for is some idea of what you're making it out of, so that you don't turn around and put a creosote wall in there in place and say, well, you approved the wall and we put a wall in.
Yeah, no,
It's
I can
just,
definitely provide you with a basic typical cross-section
Yeah,
for.
that's all, whether it be a big block, a little block, one or the other, and just, and we appreciate you're not designing it, at least we know the material it's being made out of.
So I have you, you're gonna extend the erosion controls to the property line, you're gonna give us a cross-section of the wall with the materials that are going to be used. And then we're waiting on the variances from the DEP and the number. When would you like to continue to?
As of right now, can we continue to the next meeting, and then, if we still have the number, we can.
Make a motion to continue to February 20th at 7:45.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
7:45, is that?
Yes. Probably get EPP number tomorrow morning. That's how they've been lately.
That's what I was telling them when we walked in.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Night.
I don't know if everybody else, I just don't, I get, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Or usually just sign
Yeah,
it.
no.
Yeah, this is just off and off. It's not
Yeah, I
changed.
believe, on the agenda, it says, NOI, filed change of address for 100 Hamsby Road. So, I believe that, it appeared that there was a whole new notice of intent, but evidently there isn't, so I think there was a little mix-up here on that. So, where are you when you're changing of the address and,
Please, let me come up.
Do you want me to make a motion to wait through?
there is, no, it's been closed. That was the one for 6 Burnap, it was closed last week, and so
Yes.
the
John
issue.
Medeiros on behalf of,
So this is
Scott
just,
Tran.
this is just an update, not a hearing.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, I do have the, copies of the plan, we've made the revisions. We changed the address on the plan, and we, resubmitted the, first page with the address change to the state and also to the Concom. And I do have a copy of this plan that I'll PDF you. There was one last minute change, you were looking for the area of disturbance, it shows a little bit better on this one here.
Do you have copies of the plan for the commission here, so?
I have
Submitted.
3 copies
Okay.
right here. So I could, if I could leave you 2, that would be great. So you have to give one to the client. But basically, we calculated the area of the alteration to the green subject to flooding, and we extended riprap down here. We were able to move the driveway over a foot. And basically, that was it. The wattles were placed. We have the note saying, silt fencing around the entire property, wattles where needed. We widened the infiltration basin. The vernal pool certification will be done in the spring. And the the caliber of the trees, 2.5 inch, 4 to 6 feet, and the correct address. So we've addressed all that.
So how far, did you get the driveway away from the vernal pool?
Driveway,
Didn't you wanna
yeah,
get your own
well,
riprap
potential,
Hmm.
it was, right now it's
Detailed
11,
riprap swale.
to the swale, it's 11.6, to the wetland, about 13, 14.
The driveway itself.
The driveway itself, the actual driveway. And the riprap swale is in between, anything coming off the driveway would be treated before it reached the wetland. And then we were able to expand the bottom to make like a small basin.
Do you want the 2 copies so we can see?
Yeah. Okay.
Sure,
Just the basin, from here, we can't see any of it.
sure.
Those, those few things to correct on the plan, and
So this is a final plan?
This is the final plan.
So why do you want to stamp that
And
in?
there was one, when I was plotting them out, I had to make one more revision. Would you like them up here or?
I'll let Wanda stamp it in and then,
At least they're gonna go before planning board, right?
hmm?
no, yeah, I think he's done.
I thought it was on their agenda for this coming meeting was, Ramsey Road was on the agenda for planning board.
It was, I think,
Been
the other
approved by-
Armsby Road. Yeah.
That might have been Waterman's.
it-
Before we approved it, it was all
Are
approved.
those the 2 copies?
We had two copies.
Yeah. Okay, so
They're 2 pages.
2 pages each.
2 pages
So give them
each.
2 pages and leave 2 pages
Yeah,
with
we
mine.
need a big.
Okay, please.
I didn't know if they wanted to look at it or not.
Yeah, maybe we could just split them for now, we'll give them
Yeah,
back.
split, all right, go ahead, split them for now and.
Yeah, and then we'll split
Sorry
all
about
that.
that.
It's okay. And that's the riprap swale right there.
Tracy, the question, would you ask about the driveway, right?
Yeah,
And the
I'm still
vernal pool.
concerned that, you know, that
Driveway
it's so
was
close
10
to the
feet.
vernal pool. And now,
Potential vernal, we still haven't established that's the vernal pool.
and now it's 11 feet.
11.6.
There's no place to go with the
riprap
drive, I mean, they can't move it any
Where's the
Where-
drive, which way's the driveway? going?
14 to 15.
here, and it goes out to the street.
Well, how come there's no grades or anything out in here?
Hold on.
There was one little grade there, last one I saw.
So-
Yeah, and that's
The whole-
I
the
don't,
whole
I
thing
don't
was
see the design of the driveway
Proposed
in through
driveway.
here, and here's a wetland buffer zone here. So I mean, I just don't know why the driveway's not
So, hold on.
second page.
Yep. It was all here, so here it all is.
Sure.
There's all the details for it.
So what's the grading on the driveway beyond that point?
We stretched the grading out the 462, I believe it is.
The last grade I see is here. And then you got grade down here, it's
Does that not
58.
become their property?
So there's,
So is that an easement or is that a new piece of property?
We never
No,
discussed
that's
any
an
of that.
actual property
well, that's what I was
line that
asking.
we put in
Here's the,
access from
this is a
Burnap
wetland
Road.
right here.
So
It's
it
only
was.
40 I think
that's
a
on his
separate
property,
piece
so.
of property, or is it
When
incorporated?
we
It's
met, they
it's
only discussed from here
incorporated.
It has to
forward.
be his property.
They led us to believe that was the street,
Okay.
that this
That was
exited
approved by
onto
the
the
planning
street.
board,
It
that
does over here.
Yeah, over here,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
For what-
So
for
this
the-
is-
I wanna know
the
what,
folks
what's the grading
that
into
aren't- Is
here,
it the same owner or?
Same
different-
owner,
so forth.
Same owner, just split up their own
I
property?
don't know.
yes.
Just ask a question, is there any trees in there?
Was that piece under the same, can you do, who owns it?
They could own it. They soon.
Ask
Either
him
that,
a
or they gotta
question.
file
Yeah,
another
ask-
order of conditions, one or the other.
Bob's asking about the piece from where the property line ends to the street.
Is this right here?
Yeah.
Who owns that?
That's part of the property, we did new A&R.
And I was
Planning
looking for the
board.
design for that portion of the driveway? The design for that portion of the driveway?
Correct, right here, you're going to 458 right here,
Yeah, but it's
and then it
under,
flattens out. and it just goes
Yeah,
in.
but you're going from 462 down to 458. Is the grade change, where is that grade change? Is it consistent?
It says
or
it's
is it-
458, it's
That's
flat all the
over-
way through.
It's about a
Yeah, but it's 462 here,
4%.
isn't it, and 458 there?
Mm-hmm.
And every place here, you got a 2-foot contour line showing the edge of the road and
What's this one right here?
how it
Hold
ties
on.
into the grades and so forth.
You got 460 here, so it goes from 462 to 460. Then you got 458. It's a lot flatter through here. It's all
very
right.
flat, heading out towards Almsby.
I thought we closed this hearing about this.
You did.
That's
Nothing's
what
gonna
it was,
change.
that's all.
Project
Well, the whole,
update.
Mr. Taft has got some questions, and the whole thing becomes with the abutters that the 3 inches, we want to come off of Burnap, and they wouldn't cooperate, so we had to do this, over 3 inches.
But it was designed to be a retreat lot off of Burnap to begin with, but then there
Yes.
was a mess up and
The
when
engineering Way back when,
they surveyed it, they were minus 3 inches.
3 inches.
2/10, correct, 2/10.
So it started out
It's unbelievable.
with a driveway that had less of
That's
an
a whole
impact, but
story.
they
So they gotta
couldn't
go
get it
10
approved
feet
over
from a
3
vernal
inches
pool
and-
instead.
Right.
Yes.
Because of the
Yeah.
abutters
I
that built in
understand,
the
I just,
floodplain.
you've already approved it, so there's no discussion, as he says, so. But I just didn't see where it was designed, that's all.
Well, I didn't vote to close the public hearing because I didn't think we
Well,
had sufficient
It
plans the
was
last
closed.
time.
That's bottom line.
And we had changes to make, so did we address all the changes? Because we agreed that that's what was left.
Yes.
Plans was one of them, which we got.
Well, there was a few changes on
There
the
was
plan.
six,
That's,
there was 6
just run
things.
through it one last quick time, because that's all this
Sure.
was supposed to be about, I think, was the update of the 4 things getting corrected on the
6
plan.
things.
6 things.
Silt fence on the entire site, wattles where needed. Widen the infiltration.
Yep.
Trench at the end, made a little basin, we stretched it out a little bit further, we knocked the grade down
Yep.
on the driveway. Vernal pool certification, see if it qualifies as a vernal pool in the spring. The trees, 2.5-inch caliber, 4 to 6 feet high, we have that in the correct address.
Goes, right?
So you can sign the plan.
Okay, yeah.
So going forward, we're calling this 100 Armsby, just so we know.
100 Armsby Road, correct.
Trying to spell all that out in the findings of fact, to give
So there's
a
no.
little background so that when somebody comes, 20 years from now, they'll have the story.
So basically, the 3 of you sign the plan.
Mm-hmm.
May I approach the board?
Certainly,
Wanda?
state your name and address, please.
Right in Walton Drive, I'm building a house for my niece. Just wanna show you what, how they filled in the floodplain. See the difference with their pool and stuff? These people here on the corner, they're giving us all this trouble for the 3 inches. They filled in the federal floodplain.
Sure. What house is that? Is that the
The one on the corner.
the new one that
Yeah.
John McGill built?
Jay built, yeah.
Jay built, yeah.
And they won't sell us the 3 inches.
So you're reporting them that they,
Yeah,
Yes,
they filled in
okay.
for federal floodplain. You tell me how I follow through with it.
Formal
Yeah.
complaint, is that, and that's on their land, that's not on
It's
PV's
not-
land,
no,
right?
It's on their land.
So I know John Kuchar in the past has gotten involved in things like this, because he can go on the maps and,
Well, you can see it's been
Yeah.
filled in.
yeah.
The pool was put it, Did they come in front of us for the pool, Wanda?
No.
I need an address. What about an address?
It'd be next to 100 Osby.
I don't know where it would be.
Is that Mr. Patterson that came in last
I
week?
believe so.
The, butter,
I think they're 105.
I don't know if it's Hamlin.
I tried
No,
to-
No, it's,
Hamlin's off of Burnap Road.
Patterson.
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 Anyway,
Where's the,
where's the jurisdiction?
yeah, that's all I was trying to, so what's this blue line saying? Can see the
That's
wetland
floodplain.
finger. This is the floodplain.
So you can see the difference where it is, from the house to the pool. See how it grew?
I don't know, I guess we'll have to look into it then.
Sounds like a complaint.
Yep,
We should have something in writing though, I think.
yep.
From me?
Can you send an email or write a letter?
Yeah, be glad to. 3 inches, be glad to. Who do I have, you have like a, I can
Wanda,
send
can you
a
give him your
email?
email card or something? Or write it down for him.
Oh, yeah, card, I had to have.
So I guess if you just check to see if they have a permit for the pool.
Yeah, did you find out the address, see if they did that?
We'll look into it. We'd have to find out where jurisdiction is and if they're outside of our jurisdiction and, is that the
Well, you can see by
floodplain you
these
have?
maps that
Yep.
it's not out of your jurisdiction.
Unfortunately, I have an outdated aerial photo, and outdated parcel mapping. But this bulb right here represents FEMA flood zone A, which is the 100-year floodplain, and
Did you
that
see these
that
maps
lot on
already?
the corner is just, about right here.
They didn't file with us for building the house, right?
I don't remember
No.
seeing anything.
I don't think they did.
What is the address?
Now, his thing too is that this is flood zone A with no base flood elevation given. So, I don't know if a study has ever been done of this
These are updated.
area
You
to
see
figure out
these?
what that base flood elevation would be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the pool.
Oh, yeah.
What street is it?
You have two of those, right,
This
Mr.
is
Noel?
10 I wanna say
One's
it's
different than the
108
other.
Oh, they
They're
are.
two different things, yeah.
John, what was the address you said?
This is
Oh,
now.
5, I think.
He was able to go back in the maps. One was before they did the work and
Was
then
that
one after.
105?
108 Armsby.
108?
Just don't know if you, the jurisdiction, it shows the
So
wetlands, but,
there's
so
lawn,
the floodplain's on
looks
jurisdiction
like
as
a
well.
little shed and nips the pool
There.
area.
Put a pool in it.
Okay.
If that's correct, those are all correct.
And then if there's fill in, that's, so that's,
This area, again, has been used by,
Yep.
was used by the golf club for years, and I think it was an old,
Parking lot.
parking lot, and then before that, I think, gravel borrow area.
and I think in part of that now, they're dumping, when they did the construction across the street, they're dumping piles of stuff over there.
That's the new dump.
Yep.
Way in the back they are.
Yeah.
Well, there was some, last time I went by there were piles of dirt, kinda.
I was
right in
there
front.
first time, 2006, and there were piles back there, back then.
That became the dump when John built the condos and they got rid of the dump. Wow. Where the old dump was down by the greens. That's where they dump across the street. That's gotta be at least 10 years now.
So what are you doing with this now, because that's been signed for
Yeah, it's
that
been signed.
DEP.
They just signed the plan.
They sent an updated cover letter
That's
to
the plan.
DEP with a new address.
They went over all, so it's just a open
So that's
order
the
of
plan that
conditions.
they were waiting for. Okay,
So they come to the board for a pool?
I don't
Well, we-
believe
Oh,
so.
we'd have to, I
we'd
mean,
have to look it up.
No, I don't think they
we're
did
not that good, Frank, come on.
Our appeal period's over too, right? Correct?
No, it's gonna be so.
Seven more days.
Some more days.
Okay, so I guess we're all set with you.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
very
Thank you.
much.
Frank, I think just waiting for Brandon to issue the order of conditions. That's it, and then just record them
Right,
in.
and I was waiting for this to happen.
Yeah, no, agree.
So I'm most likely gonna be sending this to Wanda tomorrow, cause it's just waiting for this to come in really, so I could get a final revision date, and the last thing I needed was the amount of square feet on the, zone A.
Yep, and that's right, now, first thing in the morning, I was plotting them out this.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is 745 26 Mallard Way. I believe the Murrays requested a certificate of compliance.
Yes, we did.
And when Brandon went to do the inspection, he noticed that there were some things that had been done that weren't approved. So, Brandon, if you can bring
Yeah.
up pictures.
Allow me to, see, okay. Pictures, 19, 12, 17, and I'll bring up the, just let me get it situated here. It's, which one is it?
26 Mallard Way.
Yeah, which one of these is Mallard? One of them's Oak, one of them's Mallard. Right here, yeah, it's,
No, down,
that one.
that one.
Couple more. This one right here.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the house that was, well, there was a structure there before, it was rebuilt under an order of conditions in 2014. And so I went to do the inspection for it, and everything looked fine over here. But then I turned around and I just looked over this direction, and I see that there's a strip of woods on the south side of this building. And what I noticed was there was some cutting of vegetation and trees over there. The strip, see if I can go to the right spot. Yeah, I noticed piles of, I noticed this all along the stretch. And there's a 200-foot jurisdictional area from a great pond in Sutton, so the work over on that side looks to me like it would have required some kind of purview by the commission before doing it, so I wanna bring that up.
If I may, just those were actually
Could
branches.
you stand up
I'm
and
sorry.
say,
I'm sorry,
state your
my
name
name's
and,
Alan. This is my wife Diane.
your address for the record?
26 Mallard Way. On Singletary. And those branches, that's actually three large branches, those aren't trees, those are branches that came off the oaks. There's a power line that runs up there, and those were hanging over the power line, those were taken down. Those are all branches, not trees.
I wanna compare this to,
That was freshly cut, as you can see by the wood chips.
so what I'd like to do is go back to some older pictures, cause I remember that having more vegetation in there.
So there was another tree as well in there, it was hollow, so it let go in one of the storms. We had a storm come through, and it popped 3 trees off over by the lagoon, we call it the lagoon, over by the wetlands. And that hollow one popped as well, so there was one, large tree in there, as well as some more invasive vegetation.
I have anything here? That was the construction. Then there's another one. I think I have it in the original one. Come on. 2012. So we seem to be on the wrong side of the house. Here we go, all right. So these trees still here?
Yes, the set of three is still there, yes.
So I can see this area is open, but that pile of wood chips and the cuttings can, you know, give me some concerns, so I wanted to bring that to the commission.
We would like, also to plant more trees. We've planted some small trees over the 3 years. We thought the order conditions, was
You
close.
can plant as many native trees as you want.
We were looking to plant 4 more, both the 2.5-inch maples like we planted before, because we love the shade's been great. And we wanted to plant 6 more high bush blueberries over in the wetland area. And I had a map of denoting that too as a, because we'd like to do that and,
Planting, we have no problem with. Cutting, we do.
right, we love the trees. The ones we added from the original construction are great. They're along the water. We'd like to put some more.
Looks like there was a pine tree over there. It's a pine tree?
Yep.
Is that gone now?
Yeah, that pine tree is gone. I couldn't even tell you where, unfortunately, I don't know where that went.
That's the best I can do.
Right, so you're proposing to plant more trees? Hey, Bob, you having?
I personally think that is a huge improvement from what that property used to be. And I actually looked at that property to purchase before we purchased ours at the other end, and it's one of the nicest lots on the lake. I don't see a huge problem here, especially if they're gonna replant.
All right, so I guess plant all the trees you want. How about the certificate of compliance?
That was the only outstanding issue. Everything else, to me, looked like it's in compliance, and they've done their due diligence with the engineer and the letter.
And we got the letter and everything, so.
Make a motion, issue a certificate of compliance for 26 Mallard Way.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for
Good
coming
night.
in. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Can we postpone our 8 o'clock hearing on the rules and regulations till after the board business here?
Make a motion to table the public hearing at 8 PM until we get through the rest of board business.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
103 West Sutton Road.
This is the, we're requesting a certificate of compliance for the work that was done on the driveway culvert at 103 West Sutton
I
Road.
w-
Did you get the report?
Yeah,
I went
There's
out
some
there,
question about whether that made it here or not, so.
Yeah, I
I
did.
printed out a copy, okay.
I went out there about a month and a half ago, I think, and everything looked fine, so.
Yeah, we
I
just
didn't
went through
take
that
any
there.
pictures, but.
I have pictures.
And actually, in the semi-flood we had a couple of weeks ago, I went by there and there was water on both sides of the street and people's driveway was flooded, but
Yeah.
it looked fine over there.
We've got some issues on some of the other areas there, but this part's better. It was good.
Looks good.
One of the other culverts that we're gonna replace up there is failed now, and really holding back a lot of water.
That's it.
Make a motion, issue a certificate of compliance for 103 West Sutton Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
One more thing, don't you?
He's not about.
What?
Didn't you have a,
Yeah, no, we have
Mind
not.
to change the process?
Yeah, we have a request for a field change for the Welsh and Putnam dam removal projects. We had requested, you approved the moving of one utility pole. Evidently, when Verizon got out there, they decided that we had to move a second one as well. so there's a note to that change that we'd like to.
It's two certificates.
But she did not send me the request form. I asked her.
Oh, is there a form?
Yeah, I sent it to her by
There-
email,
there's
she
no-
didn't send it to me.
There's no form for a minor field change
No,
request.
but there's a form for a certificate of compliance.
Oh, on 103 West Sutton?
No, the one for West Sutton Hutchinson Road, cause she said they weren't looking for a certificate of compliance yet. So
Right,
what?
that's.
No, we haven't even started that. It's
Okay.
103 West Sutton Road is the certificate
Yeah,
of
that I
compliance.
have.
And the
So it's the Merrill Ponds project.
Merrill Ponds project is just a minor change.
You just need a minor field change.
To move a couple of
Make-
telephone poles.
Make a motion to issue a minor field change for
Welsh Putnam Dam removal project.
Welsh Putnam dam removal, adding and moving possibly at least one more telephone pole.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The easiest thing you've done so far in here, right?
That was pretty simple.
Hopefully there's no ice out there for you to drive home in.
Yeah, it's starting to rain. It looks like the project's gonna go out to bid in about 2 weeks. Welsh and Putnam, so we'll see how that goes. Thanks.
Have a
Okay,
good night.
thank you.
Thanks.
6 Sovereign Heights, I went out there day before yesterday and took pictures that I mailed to Brandon. There's a new septic system, there's no grass there, so it isn't stable, so they're not, I applaud them for trying to get a certificate of compliance quickly, but it's not ready because there's no grass there.
So we should, come spring, be able to sign off on that?
When the grass is
Well, once the
grown,
grass
yeah.
is, hopefully,
Right.
grass is growing this spring, right?
42 Smith Road, I went out and took pictures also. I don't know if Brandon can pull those up.
Yes, I can move those up.
Or if you want to show the 6 Sovereign Heights also.
I didn't, you did that one.
Yeah, I sent you all the pictures there with Smith,
Oh, that's right, that's right. Here we
Oh,
go.
But-
just following up on that email you sent, Wanda, did you have a chance to send letters on those 6 open orders, the old orders on the track sheet? No, okay.
What was the question?
I don't know.
There was 5 or 6 open orders on a track sheet she sent from a few years back.
Stella?
I had just-
sent some, but I don't know which one.
The last time you guys
Without
sent out
looking
letters,
at-
it worked. We had a line of people come in to close them out, and I think
Yeah,
that's,
we had a few.
Do round two.
Yeah,
this
do a
is,
round two.
this is 6 Sovereign Heights, so, it looked like it was recently done and, nobody called for an erosion control inspection or reconstruction meeting or anything that, but they did the right erosion controls, but it's all bare, so it's,
Who's the engineer that submitted all the certificate of compliance paperwork, substantial completion?
Omega, Alpha Omega, Raouf?
I just think that as we try to make things easier, I know it's good to know the engineers that sent us out there, that said that the project was substantially completed.
well, Wanda
For
called
the
me,
record.
did they, did we get a letter from the engineer?
Yeah, we did.
So I just personally think it's disheartening.
Mm-hmm.
Ralph's pretty good, though.
Yeah.
He comes
Oh.
in, he's straight to the point. That surprises me with him.
I don't know when the work was done, but,
The plan is
I
here.
have,
That's the plan that was the final.
I have
Needs to be
the
signed.
application. I have an as-built, a Board of Health as-built, but I don't have record of Raouf's letter of substantial compliance.
Oh.
Is that in the file?
Yeah.
you went to
The request.
well, if we got the request without the letter,
We
yeah.
have the
Yeah.
request and an
Is it-
as-built.
The as-bilt's great, but it still requires a certification from the engineer saying that it was built in substantial compliance, and if not, if there are any changes to state what they were.
I'll
Well,
have to get that
we
from
were-
him.
It would be two different things, wouldn't it? The as-built, and that we want the grass there to make sure the site is stable, so, yeah.
So to go back from what Mike said, they did not send a letter that said it was in substantial compliance, correct?
Right.
Okay.
It looks to be.
So Mike, that's not disheartening.
then we shouldn't have gone out and done an inspection and had a meeting and wasted all of our time for a certificate of compliance is
Right.
all I'm trying to say.
Well, that's what I'm saying, they should have waited till.
So if the simple things aren't done and it comes to this board and we're
Right.
trying to make things easier,
Right.
and it's a process and I agree with it all. I just think that it shouldn't get to the board
Are
unless
we
those,
sure that it was the engineer and not the homeowner that submitted first?
I don't know.
I don't know, I got it in the mail.
so maybe we just,
Yeah, because
Make
we
it
don't want to throw
protocol.
anyone under the bus if it was the homeowner who wouldn't know any better.
but I assumed,
Yeah.
because that's the procedure that's supposed to take place, that, and it's
Right.
a newer one, that's an easier process, which I think is great, because I'm all agreeing, so we should keep the ball rolling, get these things closed out.
But if it's
It's
too
nice
soon,
if they
you
don't have to
can't do
spend
it.
money on a plan, that you can just simply have your engineer do the last, file some paperwork, submit it to us. But
Well,
I
that's
think we've
usually
made
what they
statements, I
do.
know I have, that, sure, hold the engineers responsible, they're the ones that know what they're doing, not the homeowners. So if a certificate of compliance comes through this board, those are the minimal requirements and they should be met.
But we should
And if
know-
we go out and do an inspection and then it's dirt and not even
It's
close to
wasting
being
our time.
stable, it's just a waste of our time.
Well,
That's
We
all
shouldn't
I'm
have done the
saying.
inspection because we didn't have the letter from the engineer.
So we always strive to do better.
Right.
That's what I was saying, maybe we
Well,
just
We
need
should,
to.
we should have never gone out there.
We should also
We had
know,
the as-built. I didn't know we needed the letter to.
but who
So
we
that's
need
why.
to know going forward, who sent the stuff. We gotta keep track of it,
Well,
so.
this
Go
is-
to
I think it
certificate
came
of compliance,
from
those
Alpha.
This is
basic
Al,
things.
this is Alpha and Omega. This NOI was completed in, September 19th, 2017. And that work looked like it had been very recently. That wasn't a year and a half old.
Yeah, they just
So-
did that one.
Nobody came and asked for an inspection or to look at the erosion controls or anything, so. It was a surprise and Wanda said to go up there, and I thought it was a house down the street, and then I saw that one,
Well,
so.
I was saying Sovereign Heights, what are you talking about,
Yeah,
Sovereign
it was a
Heights?
while ago.
And then Joyce finally brought it up to me, I said, oh yeah, the one from a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Wouldn't even thought to be looking for certificate of compliance because they never asked for a pre-construction meeting or erosion control inspection.
right.
Just a question, do we have a copy of the recorded at the deed, registry of deeds, like that they
We
recorded?
don't
it?
even know, because that's all done and verified at the pre-construction meeting.
So,
Well, or turned into one, or at the very minimum.
so going forward, Wanda, I think we gotta be careful what we put on this agenda.
It's been registered.
Oh, good, then,
Whenever you see that, it's been registered. That's why I didn't question it, because I didn't
Well,
know we needed a letter also.
That's the thing on the fees, that, one inspection is free,
Yeah.
and then after that, it should, if they don't pass, there should be a fee associated with it. So,
My concern-
so that they don't apply for it till they're ready.
But my concern with this is for the wonderful audience we have tonight, and for the people watching this at home. We don't look good when we go out and do something we shouldn't have inspected. So it
How do
shouldn't.
we know till we get there?
Because the first thing that I was required to do to close out my project was to bring in a letter from my engineer that said I was in
Yep.
substantial compliance with my plan. That is huge. That's to me is more important than an as-built.
Well, we used to require an as-built separate from the
We-
Board of Health. So we've substituted the letter. So, and we have accepted some of the as-bills from the Board of Health,
It's nice to have.
so,
It's a
Yeah.
nice
If
bonus.
it's already
Well, the-
done,
But-
it's
the
great.
thing that I think is nice is the engineer, who should be the last pair of eyes on a project to make sure that they did it. I don't think homeowners always know.
Yeah.
They just wanna they wanna do the right thing, close out
right,
the
and,
paperwork.
and,
So that's a time for not us to be the bad guys, the engineer, hey, guys, just before we do this, we gotta get the seed, let's wait till the spring. And then nobody's upset about anything, no one thinks that anybody's wasted anybody's time, I just think that engineer being involved.
Exactly, Mike.
And then-
But people watching this tonight at home are probably saying, "What the heck is that Concom board doing?"
We're not live.
Thank God.
Right.
But
I think,
But when they watch it, it looks like we spent 15 minutes talking about something we had no idea what was going on, and it's not good. It's also like when I said, well, we have a public hearing for John 6 Burnap and 100 Armsby Road. It's not a public hearing, so the public perception is we were wrong again. It does not look good to keep having mistakes.
Well, my thing is, if the engineer is just concerned with the septic, he can certify that the septic is done right, but he
Can
doesn't.
wait for the certificate of compliance until the lawn's grown, it meets the criteria of what we need to sign off.
So is that the responsibility of the septic person to wait until the lawn has grown?
It's the responsibility of the engineer.
The engineer needs to,
Drawings-
the engineer needs to write that letter.
Yeah.
his
That's-
drawings
So to
show
meet Title
septic
V, you have to
system
be
and
stabilized.
restoration over the top of it.
Right.
His drawings
And
show
re-enter the
restoration on
grass.
top of it.
There's
so
many
he's
different ways to-
responsible for the whole thing.
So I would be surprised if Board of Health is signed off on a septic that's raw dirt unless
Probably
they,
not.
well, that's one of the criteria. You have to have erosion control mats, you have to have some form of stabilization to a septic to get signed
Right,
off.
and here, the grass has to be stable enough that the
It's
erosion
been
controls have been removed. Because you don't wanna give a certificate of compliance and have silt fence still to be there that never gets taken down and then just falls in place and gets covered and.
Or you get a washout and the silt fence is already taken down.
Right, right.
So,
Take it down too early.
Moving right along.
Moving right along.
Just for an end statement, don't lose track of the engineers that work in the town, that do the septic designs, that file with Board of Health, that we rely on to give the right advice to the homeowners. Not saying anyone's good or bad, or we all make mistakes, but at a minimum, certain things should be met. And a little checklist always helps. We have one at the start of the meeting. Wanda should have a checklist. If certificate of compliance comes in and there's these couple of things that should be done, she approves it and it gets put on the agenda, and then we sign off on it. So if Wanda ever needs help on what those are, I don't know how we make is it a written rule? Is it a regulation? Well, just to make a simple checklist for certificate of compliance.
That's right in the order of conditions.
Okay, so then we shouldn't have this again, right? We all understand those are the
The
minimum
order of
criteria.
conditions states that you do not, you only have to do an as-built if the commission requires one. But you always have to submit that Form 8 along with an engineer's letter.
Okay?
Yeah.
So Wanda will make sure that
And that's what I've
happens.
been doing, but when I saw the as-built, I thought this project needed the as-built, which these past projects do.
But it would need the letter as well.
I always thought it was.
okay,
had
so
one
from now
right
on,
there.
don't,
The
don't-
letter.
yeah, make sure that there's a letter.
Hmm.
Okay, 42 Smith Road.
That was from to Smith Road. Let me bring up the plan real quick. So on this one, mitigation was, well, first of all, for those that weren't here, they proposed a in-ground pool with a patio around it in the 100-foot buffer zone, up to 25 feet away from an imminent stream and narrow BVW fringe. And what was agreed to is that, because they had lawn going all the way down to the edge, almost to the edge of the stream. So they said, okay, what we'll do is we'll create a 25-foot no disturb zone. It'll let that grass grow in and revert to nature, at the same time keep all of the invasive species up. And they're also required to put up the buffer zone signage,
They did.
which they did. They put up the signage. You can see the sign, there's one here, there's more. And between the end of bottom of this little slope here and the wood line, this is that 25-foot strip that's supposed to be allowed to grow up. Which at the moment looks like it's not quite as manicured as this lawn, but it's not exactly.
Well, there's another couple of pictures there
Right,
too.
Right. Which, so here you go. So basically, from the bottom of the slope to the woods.
And there's another one showing the, sign
is a
up
good one.
close. So there is
So
a,
there is a nice break between manicured and looks like it's gonna be growing up naturally. So I think it's just a matter of trust at this point.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions,
No.
a certificate of compliance for 42 Smith Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is the silt fence and hay bales all been removed?
Yes.
Joyce did the inspection.
Just ask for them to be
No,
removed.
good
that's
question.
all.
Nice job.
This is 6 hour, hence we need 42.
We have one other one here, 165 Stone School Road. This one here is a missing order of conditions that needs to be registered. It's back from 2001, and there is a plan here showing what went on. However, no one here was on this board at that time. What they need to do is they need to register the order conditions, but it needs to be a signed one. No one knows where the original went, but he wants to close it out with a certificate, but he can't do that until this gets signed again. So, here's, if you wanna look at the plan, that's what went on. I believe it was the full house built, was back with, it's near, the one that's near Stone School Road, the
Yeah.
one, and the one Smith Road. It's that whole subdivision. There are several in there that do not have their certificate of compliance. These places have been sold off and on 2 and 3 times. With when
Is that the one you
government
built, Mike?
allowed-
I don't know.
When the
There was-
government allowed the 4, 5, 6 years of extensions, nobody was doing title searches. Well,
Francis
now-
Brown?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
No, that's not one of mine.
Yeah, but
Just throwing it back.
this
So
barely is just
what's
removed.
happened is all these are coming back, you're saying send out the letters, they're coming back, and they're old, because no one did any of the certificates.
So I think we just have to sign the plan,
They
they
re-
can
So
register
they
the
can
order,
register it.
then we
Close
can
it
go
out.
out and do the
This is for
inspection and
septic
sign it
system.
up.
Yeah.
Oh,
most
that's
likely.
2001.
It's old enough that there's no ramifications without signing it,
No.
right?
Let's see, the house is
No,
built-
in fact, this commission has done it before, where rid of these old ones.
the house
We
was
wanted
built
to
in
close it out,
75.
but they never
So this is for a
even
septic
reported
system.
the order.
I
That's probably what
I
this
had
is for.
emailed MACC back in the fall about this issue, and they said that's basically what people, do is, they're so old, nobody's here,
Right,
Just close it out.
so,
yeah.
yeah, because the only way they can close it out, we do have several of them that are like that. But I haven't heard back from half
Top
of
of
them.
this.
There were a lot of them during that time period, because that's when
Mm.
one of my families was.
Yeah, and one of them, this is part of the Stuartier subdivision, which is the one Smith Road that goes to 42 Smith Road, that goes back to the other Stone School Road area.
This is just a septic system.
This is just on this particular one, right?
The house was built,
House
what'd you
was
say?
built in 75.
75, so.
Yeah,
mean,
I definitely didn't
25
build it.
years- 25 years.
Yeah.
Well, 75, yeah.
Now,
25, no, that
where's
was
the plan? The plan is
40
right
something
here.
Oh, yeah, but it said 01.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah,
The
this is
septic system was put in
Yeah.
01, according to the drawings, 26.
Get it off the books.
That was
This
that
was
one.
my first subdivision when I started working here, and it was so confusing.
That was my heyday, '01. Captain of the football team,
Life was good.
cars, no bills. If I could turn.
Living at home.
So I was a kid,
Oh, yeah?
I was a career, 3 years into my career.
You're starting to look depressed.
Wanda did send out a very brief letter, as Mr. Sabrin requested, to Mr. Patience, saying that if anything moves in, that they have to file, and he has to file a new RDA. The minutes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we didn't do the minutes. I did send them out, I don't know if anybody had a chance to read them or not. From the
Those-
last meeting.
I did not have a chance, I was too busy today.
We can table
It
them
was
if you like.
sent,
I think those were sent a couple,
no,
no?
Yeah, it
That
was
that
Tuesday.
January 9th.
Yes,
Alright,
it
then
is.
I didn't see them either.
okay, you wanna table them then?
Table the minutes of January 23rd till February 20th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so they were sent out, so,
I have one piece of unexpected business before we hit that, if that's okay with
Yep.
the chair. Got a call from Mr. Kuchar, Corey Kuchar, who bought, I believe it's 113 Purgatory Road. And he reached out to me because I know him very well and said, I'm buying a house and I bought a house, it's doing some work, and I've decided I might want to add a garage. What do I need to do as my next step? He was going to come in tonight to see if it needed to be an RDA or a notice of intent. Brandon, out of the goodness of his heart, went out and looked at the property, and I just don't know what to tell him, if it's an NOI or an RDA. For it's a 2-car garage, approximately 28 by 28 in an area that's already a paved driveway.
Is this the one that was in foreclosure, that house?
Yes.
Oh, I know
Split
that house.
level.
I know that house, I looked at it, yep.
Yep,
Nice, nice house.
yeah, it's a good spot.
Yep.
Brandon went out and there's a little stream or something, if you want to call it that, in the front yard.
There's definitely a stream. It's a stream, comes right through the middle of this thing. So, you get the driveway right here, right? So what they'd be building, I don't know, it's probably gonna, I'm just speculating here, but I'm guessing they wanna put in something like
Yep.
that, right? So you measure from the stream, which goes underneath the driveway, which is about right there to there, you got about 35 feet, so it's less than 50 feet. And if you go by the book with the state regulations, never mind the bylaw, if you're building new structure within 50 feet of a wetland resource area, it's an automatic notice of intent. And it was, I honestly, I didn't even expect to find anything because you could barely see
Mm-hmm.
this on the aerial photograph, but I stopped by it and saw the stream, and yeah, there's lawn on this side, there's some woods on this side, and the big issue is stormwater on a new impervious surface that's draining down towards the stream. This is also a stream that goes into the Whitensville Water District. So I think that it's like some extra.
what's the name of it, something Brook?
This is an unnamed tributary of Purgatory Brook.
Yeah.
Purgatory Brook is a designated cool water fishery.
Right,
So I think wildlife habitat issues, no problem. It's already existing pavement. It's the water quality issues with new runoff. I know it's like a regulatory trigger. You think, well, what's the big deal? It's already driveway. Now it's going to be rooftop. But because of the newness of the application, of the use, it triggers some of these things.
So I guess the answer is an NOI.
All right, perfect. I will
Yeah,
let-
I mean, you can tell him to come in and see me and give him all the paperwork, but he's gonna have to get an engineer
Yeah.
anyways.
And I said, if there's anything else you're thinking of doing, it'd be the time to do it, come in once and put it all on the map.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, we're back to rules and regulations. I had typed up this last Friday, and I hand-delivered them along with some other information. And so here is the proposal. The thing we hadn't talked about on here was what Bob
I
had.
didn't bring mine, thank you.
You want one over there? Everybody got theirs? Wanda, you want one for you and Brandon? So what we hadn't talked about previously was section E, for each square foot of permanent buffer zone disturbance, 15 cents. So Bob, you wanna talk about how you happen to wanna have that in there?
It was just a thought that what we're really trying to protect is the wetlands, and why not put a fee that's applicable to the wetlands?
That's all.
So that would be $15 for every 10 by 10 area, so that's 100 square feet. I had added this in the note at the bottom, the following require filings at the Registry of Deeds, because sometimes people forget that. So an order of conditions, a certificate of compliance, amended orders, and extensions.
The only comment I made is that we wanna charge people for oil or hazardous waste cleanup.
I think we do if it's a big project.
I
We
suppose,
had one at 449 Central Turnpike couple of 5 years ago.
I mean, this is not just, there's something in your backyard. I mean, this is big oil and hazardous waste cleanup projects
okay.
that would
then-
require Brandon and a whole lot of oversight and so forth.
Okay, and that does make sense.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are these fees cumulative? And by that I mean, let's go to number 3, notice of intent. Let's say you have a single-family dwelling with a driveway in the buffer zone and a septic system. So is it just $50 for single-family dwelling, or is it $50 for the single-family dwelling, $50 for the, or $100 for the driveway in the buffer zone, and also $50 for the septic system, which comes up a total of $200?
That's what Grafton had, we were patterning this after Grafton's. And that's what they do, is they do it cumulative. We had reduced the single-family dwelling to $50 and the multifamily dwelling to $50, and then $25 each additional one. They charge $100 for single-family and $100 for each multifamily dwelling plus each unit. But this is something that we did discuss it a little bit before. You could have a single-family dwelling that did not have a driveway in the buffer zone or with a crossing. So, we just patented it after them, so,
I have another question / suggestion. Number 1, the RDA. B and C, so delineation determination, 3 acres, it says of less, should be or less, right?
Yeah.
And then C, delineations for projects larger than 3 acres require an ANRAD. I don't recommend using acreage, because some 3 acres will have 50 feet of wetland boundary, and some could have 1,000. You just, the configuration of the wetland could be anything. Small lots could have a lot of wetland, and big lots could have a little wetland. What I've seen done is use a linear footage cutoff, and that cutoff I've seen is 600 feet. So if you have 600 feet or less, or I don't know, maybe up to 599, you can do determination of the wetland boundary through an RDA. But if you have 600 linear feet or more, then it has to go to an ANRAD. That's how I would recommend doing it.
what does anybody feel?
I just thought on $50 is excessive for I. On top of, because these are on top of other fees, like we
Well, let's
discussed and talked about.
Let's just,
'Cause a
before we
single
go
f-
on to him,
Yeah, oh, yeah, sorry.
let's go discuss what Brandon just said. Would you rather change the 3 acres to the 599 feet, up to 599 feet?
That makes sense to me. Yep.
Yes.
And then delineation for projects larger, 600 and above, an RDA. Everyone agree to that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'll make those changes.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the only question, is that something that has to be stated in our bylaws?
No,
Not the fee, but the fact that a.
no.
Okay.
These are our,
I understand these are our fees, but you have conditioned the fee by saying that anything's over 599 feet now has to have an ANRAD filed versus a RDA. Now, is that contrary to something that may be in our bylaws?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Because
I
this
don't
is
know, I was asking you
the-
a question.
The bylaw says to go to the rules and regulations for the fees. We had never put them in there, so that's what this is.
I understand that,
But I will check on it.
but you were qualifying or putting a definition, not just a fee, but you're putting a definition in there.
So
And I
we,
didn't know if the definitions belonged under fees or whether they belonged under bylaws.
okay, so in other words, that you would want to put that regulation into the bylaw, okay?
I'm asking whether or not.
Okay, we'll look at it,
That's all.
He's being mindful to not make
Because-
it more confusing,
yeah.
right? In a
Because-
way.
You don't want to,
Yeah.
one thing says one thing, another
Right.
thing says another, you want both of them saying the same thing, that's all.
So
We-
just make
we
sure
could-
the clarity.
We could add that into the bylaw.
Yeah, if need be, if
Yeah.
it's not already there, that's all.
Okay, yep, if it's not already there, then we might, we might need to specify that. Okay,
And then on number 2, I would change that from acreage to linear feet. And you can
You
choose
would-
whatever you want.
you would change what?
Number 2, on the ANRAD, I just changed that to linear feet, because again, you could have 10 acres with very little wetland, or a lot of wetland, you never know what you're gonna get. So it makes more sense to me, just base it on what the actual amount of work is gonna be, and that's based on the linear footage. So maybe you go from, like, 2A would be 600 to 1,000 linear feet, and then B would be 1,000 to 200, 2,000, then C would be 2,000 to 3,000, and then D would be 3,000 plus, something like that. Choose whatever numbers you want. But
Okay.
that's a more, I think that's a more accurate,
More accurate?
gauge of effort than acreage.
It goes back to the same thing for the RDA.
Right.
Big lot could have less, or
Exactly, I've seen it plenty of times.
So do you agree with those numbers, 600 to 1,000, 1,000 to 2,000, 2,000 to 3,000, and 3,000 and above?
Yeah, that
Yes.
sounds good to me.
simple.
Simple.
Okay,
All right, and what is this, 25 cents per linear foot of wetland boundary after the first 100 linear feet?
well, that was what they had, if it was larger than 100 acres, if it was more than 100 acres, then it was an extra 25 cents per linear foot.
How often is that gonna happen?
Yeah, so just,
That could add up.
just simply say 3,000 and above.
Yeah, $100, well, they used to have $100 plus, maybe you change that to $200, because it says 100 plus.
Yeah,
Just make it $200.
And then no one has to calculate all these land
Yeah.
and,
Right,
idea.
and then at 25% linear foot, but my comment would be on that, is there a maximum? Because that could go into the stratosphere. The state has, on ANRADs, there's maximums. So the most you can get charged on a single-family house lot is $200. And then the most you can get charged on a commercial or subdivision is $2,000.
Not knowing what their real intent was when they wrote this, was their intent that if you asked for an ANRAD on 10 acres, it was $50 regardless if there's it could come back, there's no wetlands, but you still got charged or $50 in the case of 10 acres.
That
And
wouldn't
it-
be the way to do an ANRAD, that would be an RDA if you don't even know if there's wetlands on the site.
Well, I didn't know what their intent was here because, okay,
With an ANRAD, you know that there's wetlands and they've been delineated, and the point is to have said wetlands verified.
yeah, it's just the 25 cents per linear foot after the first 100 linear feet confused me.
Me too.
Because 100 linear feet is not very long, that's all.
oh, maybe I made a mistake, maybe it's,
it's okay, we took it out.
yeah, okay, we took it
We
out,
took
okay,
it out.
thank you.
Take that out?
Yes. And we're gonna change D to 200, correct?
Yes. All right. So, are we going to make these cumulative with,
Well, just I, can we discuss I, because we started the last
Yeah.
time we were together, and I
Okay.
think we were all burnt out.
yeah,
I just, decks, pools, and sheds, even if they're, because these are addition to other fees. And, like I said, a $50 fee is a lot when you're just trying to put a little shed in your house on top of the
Well,
other filing fees,
I put shed that requires a building permit.
which isn't that big of a, I just think.
Greater than 10 by 10. Under 10 by 10, you don't have to have a building permit.
Well, the reason would be is look at the, and I agree with you, Mike, we don't wanna have people overspend, but look at what just Mr. Noel just brought up about that pool.
Yeah.
Well, so the pool, you gotta get a building permit, you gotta pay for that fee. Then, this is if you're in the jurisdiction of conservation, you'd have to file and pay your state fees, your bylaw fees, and then in addition to those, these fees. So,
I totally
if you
get it.
file for a shed, you have to pay for your building permit,
Yeah.
which is, I think, $75 or $100, cause it's a minimum fee. And then what does it cost to file either a RDA or a notice of intent?
RDA is $25.
Okay, but that's very simple determination,
Right, yeah.
so now they're already over $100 and something. So I'm just saying, so it's $200 in permit fees?
The only reason I
To get
wanna
a
bring
shed?
it up is that I would have agreed with you until tonight. Now we're looking at the possibility of that house being,
Oh, I haven't signed.
with that pool thing with the,
Right, and if they have to file, they're gonna have to pay all those fees to do a notice of intent, and
yeah.
I'm just saying, 99% of the people that apply to put a shed in aren't gonna do it wrongly. This is supposed to help with costs. I just think it's excessive on a shed.
Well, do you want to make another,
pool and a
another,
deck, not
another
an
line
addition.
and put deck, pool, and shed in a different category from a garage and a barn?
No, I'm just,
The pool
I'm
might
just
be the
saying.
one that causes can be the biggest. 'Cause
But
we've
they
had-
still gotta, so it wouldn't stop what came in front of us tonight. It wouldn't, it's just creating a fee.
It just would eliminate another fee?
Right, so some people say an above-ground pool, and you didn't have a lot of money, and it was a big stretch for you to put that up for your kids. And you gotta go to the, so minimum, building department every time for a pool. Then if you're in the jurisdiction of conservation, you have the filing fees, and then, like, I'm just, on those small items.
adds up.
That could really affect people that don't have substantial incomes, that aren't building brand-new houses, that aren't doing commercial projects, that aren't,
So what
and
do you
only because,
suggest?
and only because of, as we've talked, we've made bigger fees for bigger projects, bigger things. I just think we shouldn't lose track of those three little small things on here that I think could actually impact families to not be able to put, I just know that some people's budgets are that tight.
And they would still pay the $25 for an RDA.
Right,
So
and
it-
it'd still
it's
pay
still-
for a building permit, and it'd still be at a minimum. That's what I'm saying. This is like a third fee.
So do you want to make another line with a reduced fee for the deck, the pool, and the shed, or whatever?
I personally don't think there should be any fee for those three things, and I'm good with everything else on this page. I just think those three small things that go on in town that could start to affect people that rent might wanna put a shed. And I don't wanna get into people's means, but I just think those three shouldn't get taxed with yet another fee. Cause there's plenty of things in place to make sure that, you know, unfortunately, people will probably put in pools. It won't be the last time somebody does something in our jurisdiction they're not supposed to. Like I said, we gotta hold the engineers responsible that sign and do all these projects that aren't making sure the owners, cause they have to do inspections. They are involved with their project from start to finish. And they're supposed to be the professionals. So, you know, evidently, to put a pool in, you could just physically go do it. I don't know if they pulled the building permit for it and it got missed at that level, but it probably wasn't intentional, but things will always get missed.
I have something here that might negate all this. 4E, for each square foot of permanent buffer zone disturbance, 15 cents. Is that gonna be on top of everything else? Or could that just be the whole kit caboodle? Or could that be completely taken off? If it's on top of everything else, then it really gets expensive. But if you only did that, it would probably still be a lot more expensive, maybe, I don't know. But it would be, I don't know, commensurate with the level of activity that these folks want. It would probably be a deterrent to the big lawn. People would think twice, it's almost like a tax. You know, I'm gonna think twice about how big I want that lawn and how wide I'm gonna have that driveway now. Discussion?
I'd like to eliminate that one. I don't like the whole math formula people have to figure out.
Me too, I
It's
don't-
too open-ended.
And we don't want too many fees, I agree. Good. we probably didn't finish, because I think by the time we
Got
get to the
halfway
end, I
through.
don't think we've ever made it to the very, very end. So maybe we should
Well,
just spend a little time with
yeah.
it. Amended order of conditions. Because you know what, another thing, look at C. So if site does not pass each subsequent inspection from certificate of compliance, you have to pay $25. So if we want to use an example, you don't like that fee?
Nope.
Well, it happens, you know.
Yeah, but
it's
they're
in-
already paying Brandon to come back out. They're already paying for this, paying for that. I don't think that we.
Well, they're not necessarily paying Brandon to come back out, but.
So in this
That
case today,
consultant
Joyce went
fee
out on-
that is submitted at the beginning of the NOI is cradle to grave. So that's supposed to bring it all the way through the certificate of compliance. However, there's a caveat in the consultant fee that if additional funds are required for legitimate reasons, then the commission can ask for more money. And one of those reasons would be, is like that someone did a really bad job in the construction, they totally messed it up, and now Brandon has to keep on going back out there. Yeah.
Comes back again to the question of what are this money's gonna be used for? And if these monies are to be used to support conservation land,
They're not for conservation land. They can only be used, these fees are under the WPA, they can only be used for the wetlands protection things, not for the land. That's the conservation fund.
well, again, you've got the consultant's fee, as Brandon just said, which is supposed to cover that. You've got the WPA fee, which has consultant fees in it. Now, do you have to, how are we justifying by saying that the consultant may, or somebody may be going out and inspection under a third fee is what I'm saying. It's my understanding that the money collected from this was gonna be used to improve the lot in town, conservation, land, properties.
No, that's not this particular thing. This can be used for the same thing as the Wetlands Protection Act fees that we collect.
Salary for a secretary, things to
Yeah.
run conservation
And
inside
I
the town.
disagree with that 100%, so I vote no against all these fees and the definition of the whole thing, because I do not feel that it's fair to the citizens of this town to have them charged 3 different times to cover the same secretarial, same consulting fee, same computers, and same everything else.
It was,
And so I'm voting against it, period.
it was,
And you guys
they were
can
collected
go on.
before.
I don't
all
care if
these
they're
fees.
collected before or not, that, if they were collected before and it was already in it, it would be part of the bylaws. It's not part of the bylaws.
It was
We
part
are-
of the bylaw.
It is not now, we are rewriting the bylaw.
Did you take it out?
We are yeah, I read the bylaw, and it's got nothing in there that says anything about this, so somebody took it out.
It does.
So now you gotta put it back in there, and you're writing the bylaw to go back in there. Now, I do
No.
not feel that these fees
We're not
should be
rewriting,
charged to the citizens of this town to offset expenses that are being incurred in being paid for under 3 other accounts, or 2 other accounts, excuse me, just to make the 3rd account, so
the
I mean.
reason the municipal bylaw fees were instituted, and it's,
I
and,
don't-
and it's in the other stuff that I didn't bring with me, cause we weren't gonna talk about it tonight. But it was put in because the Wetlands Protection Act fees did not cover all the expenses. So that's why it was put in. We had it before. It was in the bylaw that we passed in 2015, and it said to refer to the rules and regulations for the fees. We thought they were just gonna automatically get transferred. They didn't. We haven't been collecting any for 3 years, so this is what I've been trying to do for the last year. So,
Well, firstly, before, since we may not be, nobody else has spoken, but we may not be in agreement as to what these fees are gonna be used for, because we haven't written a bylaw to accommodate this. Until you write the bylaw, I'm afraid I can't have any more discussion.
Well,
on
the
these
state,
fees.
the state says it can be used for the same
May,
things.
may be used, I understand the word may be used, and
But
my
this-
understanding of the word may is it's different than has to be used. It's discretionary as to whether or not this board wants to use, or what this board wants to use those funds for. What may you use these funds for? And I would like to see this board decide what they would like to use these funds for before we continue the discussion as to whether or not we need to get more money for re-inspection, or whether or not that's covered under the consultant's fee, or it's already covered under the WIPA fee, or whether it's covered under some other fee.
If you look at that, well, the way it's been working previous to this, it was all put into the WPA account, and Wanda kept track of it separately from the other
These fees
fees.
don't go into the WIPA account, so I don't know why we're
Ye-
talking about these.
Yes,
WPA.
it's
This is the conservation
The line
fees.
item.
it's not a conservation fund this goes into, it's a WPA account.
So these fees are just for the WPA, and the conservation fee that you originally wanted to initiate, or at least my understanding was,
No,
we're not having that fee any longer, is that right?
what was in the bylaw before? It was published in the bylaw. And Jen suggested that we put those fees into the rules and regulations because all it required was a public meeting to change those fees. That's what I thought we were doing in 2015. No one ever had the meeting to transfer those fees. So that's why I brought this up. The language is in the bylaw that go to,
So these fees that we're talking about, okay, are for the Wetland Protection Act filing. This one here is not for this down here, correct?
it's for this down
Well,
here.
this is not that. This is a WPA fee.
This is the money that comes from the
This is the
state.
WPA fee, okay? This
And-
is the WPA,
and this is-
the bylaw fee. Now
This is,
well, hey,
here, under the home rule amendment, every non-exempt you can,
I've read it just as well as you have,
Yeah.
Joyce, and there's two different fees there. One of them is a WPA fee, and the other is a municipal wetland bylaw fee.
but they are,
And that's a
they're,
bylaw fee, says that you can use it, may be used for certain things, may include, okay? The creation of informational brochures, material staff, commissioners training,
Can I
and
interject?
equipment specialties, consultants review through the consultant's fee account, membership dues, subscriptions, general travel expenses.
that's the same as a WPA
Can-
account.
Well,
Can-
then
can
why do
I-
we have two accounts? Why don't we
Yes.
just say it's all a WPA account and forget about the whole thing?
Because
okay?
most towns did not have enough money because the state does not give you any money to
I
do an
understand,
RDA.
So why not take these filing fees and say these filing fees are for the WPA account, and we don't even need a municipal wetland bylaw account because we don't need it.
Because the state
because-
doesn't give us enough money for, they only give us half.
Plus $12.50.
Yeah. No, actually, it's 25, but anyway. Andy,
My personal opinion, just to avoid any more argument on this, is I think we're right here on this. I really do, as a board. But my impression was when we first started going, that it was gonna be advertised as a fee and a bylaw meeting. And we missed the bylaw meeting part, 'cause there's some.
no, we haven't done that yet.
Right, I think that we should continue this until we straighten out our bylaws. I think we get some issues with our bylaws, and we could make a bylaw that points the direction for these funds to go
It's-
with research. I don't think that we can say yes on this tonight, but you've done, I mean, I'm not saying that you haven't done your job, but I think that, you know, if this is just gonna go into that same fund, like I said, our
What
last
same
workshop.
fund?
So this money is gonna go towards the Wetlands Protection Fund up here, which is this is an MACC article. So it would go towards the administration and enforcement of the Wetlands Protection Act, is that right?
Mm-hmm. It goes for anything for the Wetlands Protection Act, administration and enforcement.
Well, what it says here, the things that are applicable is salaries of Conservation Commission staff who process the applications, hiring of counsel to defend the commission in suits related to permit denials or enforcement under the act, in-house training, travel to and attendance to external training conferences or workshops related to the Wetlands Protection Act, or equipment or materials related to administration or enforcement of the act. That's what it would be able to be used for. They just laid it out right there. Those are the things that the Wetlands Protection Act account can be used for, right there.
Yeah,
And that's above and beyond what you would receive through the fee that's already mandated by the state, which isn't really that much. And you don't get any from RDAs.
That's why they instituted this municipal bylaw filing fee. Because from the WPA, you don't get enough to cover RDAs and other expenses.
So that's why we're in the hole, or part of the reason we're in the hole.
Right.
Are we in the hole?
No.
I thought there was no money in that account.
It's
There was-
3,500 right now.
And it used to be 50 grand.
Well, not the $3,500 is a lot of money, but I thought that 2 months ago there was nothing left.
No,
That
it's been on the plus side
6 or 8
almost the
months
entire
ago.
year.
The sheets that I gave you,
It's in there, okay.
it's in there. Look back, I think it's 2000.
And once again, if you have questions, Tim said to email him. He will do an answer, and he will send it to all of us. So if you have questions about how the accounting takes place, this would have to be in its own revolving account,
Okay, the balance in
Why
line
would it
17
be in its own
Negative
revolving
one.
account?
because that's what the law says.
So you're gonna have a WPA account, and then you're gonna have this revolving account here, and you're paying the same bills out of both accounts? Why not combine them into one if you're paying the same bills out of
Well,
both
it might
accounts?
be
Because-
able to be a line item, I'm not sure.
Because the state,
Well, you-
look at the
He's gotta decide that.
The things that Jen did, and I disagree with the first paragraph, it needs to be rearranged. But she gave you all of the supplemental materials with the Mass General Law to explain the whole thing.
So you're gonna have two WPA accounts, or two accounts, one's gonna be listed WPA account, and another's gonna be listed something else, and you're gonna pay all the same bills out of both accounts.
Because the money that we get back from the state isn't enough to pay for RDAs, and that comes out of the pockets of the taxpayers. This was meant so that, and it's not considered a tax. There was the Baker case and the Emerson College thing, and that determined that it's not a tax because people do not get the same value from this. That basically, I'm not explaining it right, you can read it. But it basically, the contractors are getting the advantages of this, and the people in the town are not. That's why it can be a fee and not a tax.
So in other words, you're saying the contractors are not paying, or the
The-
people coming in front of us are not paying, but we as Sutton taxpayers are paying for this?
We as taxpayers are footing the bill, so that if this municipal bylaw filing fee is in, we can use that money and not have to go to the town for the money and have the taxpayers pay for it. It would be paid for out of this account and not drain you, me, Andy, and everybody else.
I have a question to that. So with all the bylaws and all the costs that the town's created, that we all like, you don't think this is some responsibility of the taxpayers to pay some of the cost of conservation?
Yes.
As a whole, as a town?
And there's 3 ways you can do it. Some towns do it half and half. Like, for instance, if Wanda pays, she doesn't spend all her time on WPA, then if it's 50%, then it can come out of this filing fee, and the other 50% would come out of the town. So it would be funded from the town aspect and this other account. Some just do it out of the filing fees, some just totally do it out of the town. So this is what you have to decide, if it's going to be funded half and half, or if the town is gonna fund the whole of conservation and it comes out of taxpayers' money, or it's gonna come out of the wetlands fees.
Well, the town will never be funding all of the conservation money, because you've got a.
So this
draw
is
on-
why-
You've got a draw on the WPA as it is right now. You look at your accounting sheets, you can see that they've been drawing off of it and paying bills, and there's a balance left in it right now.
There's been quite a few it looks like checks were paid. Payroll checks. Where a lot of the money went.
Well, tonight I just wanted to look at these fees, because you get these fees done, and then we can go on to the bylaw. But we kinda need to do these fees first before we go into the
Well, can we agree on
bylaw.
these fees so we don't have to revisit these fees?
Just, that's
I
all
would
I
like
thought we
to.
were doing. I didn't think we were
That's-
voting to approve
that's-
it. I thought we were trying to get to a point to agree to this, and then,
Except we started talking about a re-inspection fee that is covered under the consultant's fee.
Oh, yeah,
It's
there was-
also covered under WPA, now you want it covered under this.
so what happened was we couldn't discuss outside of this, so I think what some of the other board members and myself is still
I'd like-
struggling with
I'd
a
like to
lot
see
more
that
of-
fee
yeah,
removed, personally.
just to understand all these different
The
fees and
re-inspection
whole
fee?
bylaw.
The re-inspection.
Okay, the re-inspection fee, okay, cross it off.
I'd like to see that removed.
So the subsequent inspection for $25.
Yep.
Okay.
I'd also like to see at the bottom an asterisk that would say something to the nature of applicants may ask for relief or hardship from the bylaw fees. If you do have, like Mike says, so I,
So, put a little asterisk, it's already got
Yeah,
the
we
one
should be able to
under
waive
them.
that fee, absolutely.
'Cause
I
it
think that's
says
a great,
Fee adjustment at the discretion of the commission is what the asterisk means, so that's on amended order of conditions. So if you wanna put it on something else, you can decide to put it on something else.
Oh, this one you're saying you want to be able
I
to
would
use
pr-
that other places.
no, I would say right at the bottom of this whole sheet that any applicant may ask for relief or hardship from bylaw, any and all bylaw fees.
what if somebody was doing a single-family home?
It says right here, fee discretion at the,
Discretion of the commission. Yeah, but it doesn't.
put a little star on it.
Okay, yeah, gotcha, all right.
I don't know, this
The
gets
only
more
problem I
dangerous.
got with that is I hate like hell to be sitting up here judging whether or
Yeah.
not that individual can pay
Right.
that fee or not,
Yeah.
all right?
That could
I
be
don't think that's
sensitive.
not a position I wanna be in.
I just,
Me either. Sometimes you talk it out, and then,
I guess it doesn't sound good, but I just like to Mike's conversation about the shed, a young couple that goes
just
paycheck
take
to
those three
paycheck.
things out, make
you
them
know,
exempt from the fees.
They're all paycheck to paycheck, they all come in crying poverty. You're gonna have very few people come in here and say, well, I'm loaded, I'll pay any fee you want. All right? They're all
I
gonna
just
say,
was trying to take the small tasks out of here,
Yeah,
leave
okay.
the bigger
All
ones
right,
at hand.
okay.
To me,
I-
as I went through, those are three small tasks.
All right, you
How do
wanna
we-
take out deck, pool, and shed,
I
and leave
think we
garage and barn?
Yeah, that's, because that's a substantial project.
If,
I mean,
if
they-
everybody agrees to that, we'll do that.
That pool shed,
And make them 25 instead of 50, because a single-family home, we're trying to give some merit to project size, so take out those three, make it $25, and I think this would start to be a
For
very fair.
garage and barn,
Yeah, garage and
$25.
barn.
addition garage barn.
25.
You're gonna be the one in
No
charge of
fee for
figuring-
deck,
making sure they're
pool, and
doing what they're
sheds.
supposed to do.
your commercial and industrial building, you guys don't care whether it's a 200 square foot building or a 1,000,000 square foot building, you wanna charge the same fee.
No,
No, let's talk about it.
no, let's talk.
Yeah, this is just
Commercial
what
and
Grafton
industrial
did, and I copied it, so you can do whatever you would like.
Do you wanna do $300 for the first 10,000 square feet?
I don't know what the break point is, but I'm saying that there, you could have a 1,000,000 square foot
Completely
building.
subjective.
Yeah.
Commercial and
Whatever you
industrial
decide
buildings.
is appropriate.
Could you do for commercial and industrial buildings $300 under 10,000 square feet?
You know what? This is for, just for the town fees.
Yeah.
It's not, it gets broken down differently for the state ones, but this is just for the municipal fees.
Right,
So I think-
Give you a little background on how the state fee is done. I've got the fees right up there for notice of intent, okay? So let's go right to category 2, which is one of the most common ones, construction of a single-family house. The total fee is $500. That gets split in half, okay? And it's really weird, because it goes back to 1971, and it hasn't been changed. Half of that fee, plus $12.50 goes to the town.
No, it's
260,
two 1250s. It's $25 altogether goes to the town. Then they subtract
No.
that from like the 500 and divide it by 2, and then that half comes to the town. So the town gets $25 out of it, yes.
I disagree, because I do this all the time in private
Yeah,
practice.
well,
So,
Are we doing it wrong?
It's 262.
Maybe the state did.
it
no,
would be
If
the
you
town
read
would
it-
get
Oh, no.
$262.50 out of this.
So the
And the
rest of that,
state would get $237.50 out of it.
I'd be
Which is
willing
weird.
to bet you that the majority of homeowners who come in here don't understand that.
When
That
I
don't
first-
understand that
When I
half that
first
goes to the state.
started doing this, I had a hard time understanding it. And I'm the professional.
actually, it's if you do it your way, it's $12.50, but then the state has the $12.50 that they give to the town, so altogether they give
Never
$25
mind
to the
$12.50 or
town.
$25.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
think your average, maybe I'm wrong, your average John Smith homeowner who walks in here that pays that $500 fee says, "Oh, I didn't know $250 went to this Commonwealth of Mass.
Well,
I
they
had no
didn't-
idea."
They do because they have to make the check out to the state, not us.
Yeah,
Right,
you
they
have
have
to
to
do
make out
separate
two
checks.
They
checks.
have to make out two
Town of
checks.
Sutton, town of this.
Yeah.
But the way you see it, $500, it looks like it all comes
That's
to
right on the
town.
Yeah.
website.
Right, but it
That's right on
doesn't.
the website.
So $250, and these are also cumulative. All right, but here's the thing is that it's real easy to get cute with this, you know? Like east crossing for driveway to single-family house. You only paid the $500 for the single-family house, you didn't pay $500 for the crossing. So that's, you know who figures that out is Juan is the one that has to be the policeman on that.
Oh, wonderful.
And DEP, they comment, but they rarely ever comment on the fee. They comment on the plan. I've never seen them comment on the fee. They pretty much put their hands up in the air and said, let the town deal with that.
The only thing they won't do is they will not do or even look at a notice of intent unless those checks are accompanying that.
Yeah,
will
there
not
has to
look
be
at it.
a check for
That
one of
goes
these
with it.
categories. But whether or not it's cumulative and if you miss something, that's the least of their problems. They do not wanna get into that.
They want that money.
The basis for this conversation was Bob talking about commercial projects,
Right.
200,000 square foot projects. So should that just be $300, or should Joe's Wood Shop at 1,500 square feet be $300 and
Atlas box.
Atlas box.
$42,350
right
be $300.
$300? That was the conversation. Are we okay with it being the same, or should we charge more?
I'd bump it up, just like you did. Up to 10,000 square feet, $300. 10,000 and more, come up with a fee.
Is that enough of a separation, Bob? Do you see? Or should there be 10,000 to 20,000? You know what I mean?
Yeah, or it should be in 10,000 square foot increments, or 50,000 square foot increments.
Right, and not that we want to jam a business trying to come into town, but
I would bet most are 10,000 and under. There's probably a handful that are 10,000 and over.
Prime metals and.
Yeah, some of your bigger ones, your bigger.
Bigger ones.
Will you tell me what
10,000
to
is a
write,
good-
'cause I'm done.
Big marijuana
I think
growing
this
up.
is one of the
Yeah,
last
those are
things,
30,
and then I'm
40,
gonna read
60,
it all.
80,000 square foot
One in
buildings.
Charlton's gonna be a million.
Yeah. You could do every 10,000, why don't you just make it simple, every
$100
10,000.
every 10,000
10,000
over.
square, up to 10,000's that fee, and anything after that's an additional 100.
100 for every 10,000. That
over
makes
that.
sense. That makes sense to me.
All
And that
right.
puts you in a range, and, you know, anytime you go 20 to 30 to 29.9 is
Okay, put $100 per 10,000 square feet.
additional
I'm
after that.
writing all
first
these,
fee.
so I'll read them in.
Hold on, I have a 4B. He says waivers, I would put a / variances, so waivers, variances. Which happens with docks a lot.
So these are fees all in addition to the ones you got up there.
Oh, I still have to think, there's a lot to take in.
And I'll let you know that this is still a lot cheaper than the Briggs bylaw that was written 20 years ago.
Okay, on D, request for extension of order of conditions. I did not put in here, but I had brought it up that if people extend the order of conditions, I don't know how, if this can be done, but that it should be under the current bylaw. That we should not extend orders of conditions unless it's under the current bylaw. So,
Yeah, but we started, what if it's halfway, three-quarters of the way completed?
I
Well, we,
disagree with
we
that.
started talking on, I think,
We
how
never
we
finished
left it.
it, but
So
you got-
there's two I can think of out there. One is very minimally started, and one is not started at all. And we've extended orders on both. And after doing it, I wish we had done it under the new bylaw, because one of them bit us big time, and the other one is just now it's just vacant piece of land, and it just extended.
I just think we have to be we just have to be careful. If we make it etched in stone, that's the law, and
well,
somebody's.
the other alternative would be to make them refile. Actually, Jen Hager had a suggestion the other day when I was talking to her about this, and she said, put a caveat in there that you, could adjust the fees. Have them file a new notice of intent, but have the fees be adjusted by the commission.
That sounds more reasonable. You'd hate to have somebody that fell in hard times for 3 years and then had to refile and
Yeah.
do the whole thing
and
again.
reinvent the wheel.
Right. That's
So that it-
expensive enough.
But if we're amending the bylaw, I mean,
Well, remember, if we say that they have to refile under the new bylaw, the engineer has to come back, they have to redo their plans,
No,
they
it
have to.
extend, and when it was extended, it would now extend under the 2015 bylaw, not the whatever the bylaw was before.
yes.
So they would go in the rules and regulations of this bylaw.
But well, that's why I was gonna put, if we extend a order of conditions, maybe we should put something in there that they would be under the bylaw at the time, because if they have to refile, then like Mike says, there's a whole bunch of other
Yeah,
extensions.
I don't want
And if
that.
a order of condition expires, you cannot extend it. It's, they would
That's what-
have to file again.
So that's, I agree, that's the better way to handle this. So we as a board shouldn't give extensions to a project that hasn't started.
Right.
Unless it's under the new bylaws, and then we would give an extension. If a project's halfway, three-quarters of the way completed, they
Different
come in
story.
front of us, they wanna, so that works for me. That I would agree with.
That's a bylaw.
Because that makes
That's-
sense.
That's a bylaw.
Whatever it is, I mean, if that.
It's
Yeah,
not,
but
it's not a fee, is
If
it?
it's a bylaw, then we can't
No,
discuss it.
no fee. So what they're talking
So-
about,
What she's talking about has to be incorporated in the bylaw and not necessarily in the fee structure, I would think.
So leave off any additional language other than request for extension of water
So hold
conditions,
on.
$50.
We shouldn't have it on there, because what we're saying
Right.
is, somebody needs to file for an extension because they haven't finished, and they're not, yeah, so if we agree to an extension, they could pay a fee for that, because that's more work for us.
The fee, I got no problem with, I'm just
But
saying,
if
you can't
they come to us,
qualify-
they want an extension, they didn't start the project, it's up to us to say, no, you don't get an extension, you have to refile. That's how we talk, that's how we left
After
when we.
3 years, because the order condition's good for 3 years.
Right, so if 3 years has passed, they wanna start their project now, they come in front of us, they haven't started, we would not grant an extension, we'll only grant extensions if the project started. Halfway,
Perfect
three-quarters of the way, they
example
come in front, we don't want to have somebody then leave, not go do all the paperwork and just start to,
Yeah.
it starts to create,
But I think what
not
Bob
good
is saying is,
relations.
I don't think we can discuss the making the changes under new bylaw, old bylaw. Under this, we can only discuss the fee, because that's a bylaw issue. So I think for argument's sake, are we in agreement,
So-
extension of order of conditions is gonna be $50, and then when we have our bylaw meeting, we'll discuss how we're gonna extend them?
yes.
I'd like to
Okay,
schedule
yeah,
that bylaw meeting.
yeah, with that, agreed.
I'd like to schedule that bylaw meeting tonight.
So have we gone through all the fees?
How about that 15
let's do one
cents
thing
per
at a
square
time,
foot?
Andy, please.
We pulled that off.
Pull that one off.
4E, you mean, right?
4E, let's go on.
All right, so this is all of them, right? We ready? I'm proposing the updated municipal filing fee, the Sutton Conservation Commission, off the list Joyce printed with the following changes.
Well, how about if I type it up and put the changes in, or do you wanna do it tonight?
Well, I think you wanted it done tonight,
Yeah,
but if
I
you wanna
kinda do.
type it up,
Well, you need to close the public hearing first.
Yeah.
You can-
not to make the, no, because we're still in the public hearing to make the
I'd
changes,
like to
right?
see it typed up before you
Well,
Okay.
vote on it, just that way there,
So-
Okay, I will type it up for the next meeting.
Are you doing any thresholds on commercial and industrial buildings?
Yes.
Yes,
10,000.
Why don't I read them through real quick?
yes, okay.
1B, delineation determination, up to 599 feet is $50. C is gone. 2, 600, A is 600 to 1,000 feet is $50.
No, C is not gone, it's up to 600.
Well, it'll say some delineations for projects of 600 linear feet or more
All
require
right,
an ANRAD.
ANRAD.
Right.
So we got that. 2, A is 600 to up to 1,000 linear feet is $50. 1,000 up to 2,000 linear feet $75. 2,000 up to 3,000 is $100. 3,000 plus feet is $200. 3A has stayed the same. B has stayed the same. 3C, commercial industrial building, is $300 up to 10,000 square feet. Each additional 10,000 square feet is $100 per 10,000 square feet.
Each how many thousand?
Each 10,000 increment. Does that make sense?
10K increase by 100?
Yeah, $100.
Okay.
So D, E, F, G stay the same. H stays the same. I, we're removing deck, pool, shed, and that fee has been changed from $50 to $25. Right?
Yep.
Right? J, K, L, M, N, O are the same. 4A is the same. 4B, we're adding variances, so it's waivers / variances. C, we're removing the line if site does not pass each subsequent inspection, $25 is gone. D stays the same. 4E is being removed. I believe that's all of them.
You're not adding, applicant may ask for relief?
Well, we've got fee adjustment at the discretion of the commission for,
So just
No, I
leave it.
thought we were gonna take that out, and just,
Yeah,
these are the
that-
fees,
It opens it up
everybody
too
pays them,
much.
it's, you know,
okay, we'll take that out,
cause
okay.
So we're gonna
then,
take the note out. Is that what we're saying? Oh, no, we're taking fee adjustment at the discretion of the commission, but we're leaving the following requires filing at registry of deeds,
I
etc.
believe it does state in the bylaw somewhere that, you can ask
so
for
do we
relief.
wanna consider, just if we were to make a statement of somebody not subject to these fees,
I think that's
nonprofits,
redundant.
you just, is that, what?
That's redundant. The following require filing a registry of deeds, OOC, COC, amended orders, extensions. That's redundant. That's,
Hold on.
yeah, that's
Take it.
right in the regulations.
But I
I'm just
want-
saying if we
But
wanted
I
to-
wanted to put it in here specifically for, these are people that are probably gonna read it on the website. And some people do not realize that, engineers and so forth and everything do, but a person just looking to see what they have to file for something may not
Well,
actually.
if they're looking at just this, my opinion would be at the bottom, put, these fees are on top of all the other fees that you're gonna have to pay. Honest to God, cause
Well,
that's would
that's
be
what they are.
deceiving if they're
Yeah.
only reading this.
Additional fees.
Right.
All right, so if you wanna cross off that you gotta,
additional wetland filing fees.
And are we keeping fees will be doubled for all filings submitted after commencement of work?
yes.
Okay. So I don't know if that's a motion out there, but that's what we're proposing is gonna be retyped up.
How
Yeah,
will,
there's-
do you wanna
there's no
vote?
vote on that.
No,
It's
I
really
just-
just you clarifying, and now it's gonna
Yeah.
get typed up.
Okay, you wanna vote on it now?
Can you
I would be
make a
happy if
meeting?
you did.
Well, I know
And
they
I
want
would-
it typed up. I'm fine with, hey, we let someone submit something without a final plan.
That worked out fine, I thought.
So I'm fine with this, assuming it's typed up the way it just was recorded on TV.
Okay, make a motion. Close the public
So
hearing.
make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All
make
those
a-
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to update the municipal filing fees for Sutton Conservation Commission based off of everything was just discussed with all the changes, with the agreement that it will be all retyped and typed up.
This still has to go to vote, correct? Doesn't this have to go to the town meeting?
No,
No? We can just
No.
do it, okay.
That it will
we
be
just do it now
retyped up.
and then it goes to the town clerk.
That's it.
Make a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed.
So,
So 3 to 2.
3 to 2.
I do think that this would have been a lot easier and a lot more efficient if we had, I was under the impression when we first started talking about this, that we were gonna do this alongside bylaw review, and I think it would have gone a lot smoother.
See, I was under the impression way back last summer that this was gonna be a one-meeting thing when we were just gonna vote on it and put it in.
I don't remember that.
Because the rules and all we had to do was put these fees in rules and regulations. It had nothing to do, because it's already in the bylaw that these fees are in the rules and regulations. They just never got put in there.
So before we go any further, what's the last item on the agenda 2 weeks from tonight, Wanda?
I won't be here 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay. How's the first week of March
Well,
look?
I figure if you do 8:15, that leaves me one spot open, because I think I do have none.
Well, Andy's not gonna be,
Okay.
well, I have a suggestion with the bylaw thing,
Do what we did in the one?
that everybody email what you wanna discuss. We're not gonna take the whole thing and go through it line by line. Whatever item you have an issue with, email it to everybody else so you can see, so we can review it before and not waste all this time.
And then do your meeting.
I agree with that, however, I think what we just did for the past 45 minutes tonight, going through this, talking it out, like Andy had a point, and then he said, well, when I hear it, that kinda doesn't sound right.
Right,
I
and that was
think-
the only thing I wanted to add, but it didn't.
But
Once
once
you-
you heard
once
it, you
you
said,
talk
you
it
don't
out,
want
it doesn't
someone
make
out
sense,
here
right.
saying, I can't afford it, you know.
I honestly think that we should do a workshop with it before we do it in a meeting, because I
We
think there's a-
can, you wanna do next
think-
Wednesday night?
I can't, and I'm gonna miss the next meeting, I'm gonna be gone away.
You're gonna be in Florida?
And you're gonna be gone the next
Caribbean.
meeting too?
Okay, so we're gonna have 3.
I had this one
next
planned even
meeting.
before I got on this board, like I
Well,
booked this
you'd have to
a
continue
year
this
ago.
to March 6th then.
Well, can't we do?
No, we're
no.
not, it's not continuing anything.
Okay.
I'm
We just
talking about the
voted on it.
bylaw.
Yeah, we wanna do a bylaw review, we should probably.
Workshop.
I think we should do a
A
workshop.
workshop on the bylaw, so it would be the next meeting is the 20th, you wanna do the 27th?
I can do, I'm leaving Thursday night, so I can do next Wednesday night, if everybody's available.
I can't,
You can't do
Okay,
it.
I can do I come back the 24th, I can do the 27th.
so I'm gone until that following Sunday,
So you're going
leaving
till like
Wednesday.
beginning of March?
yeah. I'll be back
And-
that following weekend.
And if we want anything on the bylaw
Has
change,
to be, by March 15th, it has to be submitted.
so we gotta move.
So you can do another night,
Well, we can do it
do
without,
a Thursday night, as long as it doesn't
And it has to be,
clash
it has to be,
with-
it has to be in this room, right, it has to be
Yes.
recorded.
no, well,
Yeah.
I'm back that
What-
Saturday, so I'm
what
available.
what Jen said to me was that, she had a meeting for the, West Sutton, and they did it in the selectmen's room, and then had it in a small table. And so we didn't have to be stretched
get
out like
lasagna?
this. I have lasagna in the freezer, so if you came a half an hour before the meeting, we could eat and not be eating on TV.
Okay. But I do think that we're gonna need to dissect the bylaw line by line. I don't think that we can email each other suggestions. It's gonna take some time, I think. That's my opinion.
Most of the bylaws definitions, I think it's really only the first page that's lost, right?
Yeah, there's
And
only a
then-
couple of pages after
Yeah,
that.
I mean, a lot of it's
Exactly.
definitions.
Right, it's only
Yeah.
12 pages long, the whole thing, and I think there's only 3 pages to review.
So I don't think it take, let's say this, if we, I don't wanna do a notification and not be able to discuss the whole bylaw, so.
Right.
Maybe we don't have to pick it apart, but at least let's be able to skim through it.
Just
and
read it and,
Well, be
Let's not-
prepared for it, so we're not coming in, not,
And if anybody has specific things and they shoot out an email, not that we couldn't just cover, like, you know, I mean, I think a lot of it,
well, that was my thing to try to cut it down, was to, if you have an issue with a particular section of it, let the rest of us know so we can read it and look at it ahead of time and not just come in cold and be reading through the whole thing and having these discussions going all over the
I
place.
know for myself, some of the things is just to understand before my time, how come these laws came into place and what do they accomplish for the town?
No,
That's just some of my questions, just as I
I
went
have a
through it.
question, I don't wanna put
It's just
everyone
to
on the
understand.
spot, including Brandon, but the thing is, Brandon knows the bylaw, but he also knows the Wetlands Protection Act, and the bylaw is what's different.
I drafted the Maroney bylaw.
So, should you be here?
I think he should.
So we can compare,
I think it's money well spent.
Because,
I would be in
yes,
favor of that.
when we
He
did the
understands
20
it better than all of us.
when we did the
We pay him
25th,
for his
Paid out of
advice.
the Wetlands Protection Act Fund.
yes,
Oh,
Which one? We're gonna have two.
You know what, that's,
the second one.
great.
that's
No, we don't
where
have three.
you're gonna be spending the most money, like if you have, you know, training and seminars, yeah, but it's really not that much. What's gonna happen is you're gonna have an enforcement order that somebody fights, or an appeal. And you're gonna need to hire experts like myself to defend you, because the 53G does not apply for an appeal, right? The applicant is not required to pay for me, so I can fight for the town against them, right? So, that and a lawyer.
So you're not here the 20th, Mike, right?
Just, I leave Wednesday and I'm back the following weekend,
So
so.
you,
I'm gonna meet
is anyone here well, if you wanted to make any changes here, you're really gonna wait till March 6th.
Mike, you're not gonna be
So
here
what
on
date
the
you wanna do it?
right, I'll miss the next meeting.
And you're not gonna be here
I
either?
will not be here, no.
So, just tell me when, we're already here the 1st and 3rd, 6th and 20th of March,
Yeah,
but it has to be in by the, what, the 15th?
yeah.
So,
I'll do that Monday, if
Do you,
that works.
Whatever.
okay, when are you coming back, Mike?
Sunday.
A week from,
Well, I need
let's
a
be
date.
professional about this.
You can come
Let me
in
look at
here
the
on
calendar.
Thursday if you need to.
We can come in here on any day, but,
Well, not necessarily.
well, we can
because
find
sometimes
well,
around-
we can
Monday the
be-
25th, I'm available from then on, let's say it that way. I could do Monday night or any of those
Well,
other
you could
nights.
do Wednesday night then.
I could do Wednesday the 27th, yes.
What about you, Andy?
I will not be here the 27th. Oh, yes, I will be here the 27th. I'm sorry, I will be here, yep.
So you could do it on the
27th work for everyone?
27th?
Yeah,
works for me.
February 27th?
6 o'clock?
I'm gonna make a motion to have a bylaw workshop meeting on Wednesday.
If you want lasagna, make it 6:30 so we can come in at 6.
Wednesday, Wednesday, February 27th, is that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
At
6:30.
6:30. Yeah.
Because I have to.
Second.
To get the room.
All those in favor?
Aye.
George, we can't do it in that room that night, cause FinCom's doing all their budget meetings.
Well,
Tell 'em we
The
asked
next couple
first.
weeks.
So it has to be in here?
Doesn't matter. It's
Or if
already-
you wanna set up 1B, you can do it in 1B.
Yeah, you could do it in.
It's
will you
smaller,
be
room,
able
they
to
have
do
the
it in there?
tables, you can.
We
do
have
it
to be
in-
recorded though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can set up
they
camera.
can do it. You want to do it in 1B?
What's 1D?
1B, the
1B.
small room next
The-
to the select.
Waters Farm Room.
The Waters Farm Room? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
we should have the tables there
Yeah.
and everything.
Just don't get me
Okay.
on camera eating.
And 6:30?
6:30.
6:30.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.